Okay, I apologize for the wait, first of all, but I think you're going to understand in just a second because you're going to understand I was having a reaction to something. But all this stuff from the Wayfarer side has now been put on the docket. So every piece of evidence that the judge has ordered to be unsealed or unredacted has now been placed on the public docket. I was downloading all of that stuff, and it's again there's just like thousands and thousands of pages. I was actually supposed to work a half day when I get to New York tomorrow, and I decided to take off because I was like, I'm going to be digging through this shit all day because that hearing is on Thursday. I'm like, I want to know what they're talking about. So why don't I start with something that's going to piss you off a little bit? All right. So some of this stuff from the Wayfair parties, they included footage and audio and stuff like that. Some of this stuff, they couldn't put it on the public docket because of the media format. So some videos and all that, Clark has to go get that stuff. But docketupdates.com, my friend Carol from Docket Updates, she has some of that stuff on there. So I'm going to show you something from her declaration that came out earlier today that I hadn't gone over yet. And then I'm going to show you some footage. Okay? And we've heard this story before, so this isn't anything shocking. But this is Blake Lively in her own words, her declaration, right? She's talking about the birth scene. The birth scene, which is just the way that she tries to make this a thing is ridiculous. But the script for the birth scene did not call for the simulation of nudity. And as a result, I did not discuss or consent to nudity with the film's intimacy coordinator in preparation for the birth scene through a nudity writer or otherwise. I did not discuss simulating any type of nudity in that scene with Baldoni before I arrived on set that day, and Wayfair did not ask for the intimacy coordinator to be on set for the birth scene. So I would just like to point out to some who may not understand, as she seems to be struggling with based on the footage I just saw, there is not an actual baby coming out of her actual vagina. I would just like to point that out because I think that she seems to be confused about that, as do some other people who are very adamantly on her side, but whatever. Anyways, on the day of the birth scene, Baldoni and Heath insisted I simulate giving birth naked. Again, don't know where that's coming from. They've both denied that in their depositions. Nobody knows what the fuck she's talking about. Okay? Baldoni recounted that his wife tore her clothes off when giving birth to their children. Again, when they asked him about this in his deposition, he was like, I don't recall ever saying anything like that. Okay. I shared that there was not my experience when birthing any of my 4 children and requested that my character give birth wearing a hospital gown, as it was set in a hospital. Baldoni insisted that the prosthetic belly be visible and continued to press for nudity. So she thinks that a prosthetic stomach is like offensive, like expecting her to do something nudity wise that is like really bothering her for some reason. Okay, but it's a fake stomach. Ask Laura Owens what that looks like. I felt forced to compromise and ultimately agreed to simulate nudity from below the chest down, which we had not previously discussed or agreed to. We've been over this before. Okay, here's how I feel about simulated nudity. Okay, let me just show you. Here's how I feel about simulated nudity, okay? Right, this is simulated nudity. You can't see my tits. I mean, they might be out, they might not be. I could be covering up my chest. You don't know, right? Who fucking cares? This doesn't make a goddamn bit of difference in the world. But if you want to pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it, by all means. I mean, I'll probably make $5 off this, but like, who cares, right? At this point, I don't know how else to explain it. This is so fucking stupid. Nobody has seen me naked, all right? You've seen my bare ass shoulders, right? But that doesn't mean anything, okay? Just give me a second to put my shirt back on, please. Seriously, who fucking cares? None of you know any more about what I look like naked than you did before I took my shirt off just now. Seriously. Okay. Anyways, this is just getting dumb. But Omar, she's doing it again. Omar missed it last time, dude. Are you sure you're not naked? It took a while. That's the thing. You don't know, right? You have no idea. All right. Anyways, this is how I feel about simulated nudity. It's fucking stupid. Like, you signed up to do a professional job. You're not actually naked. Get the fuck over it. Nobody's seeing you naked. All right. Anyways, let's see. Where did she go from here? I felt forced to compromise and ultimately agreed to simulate nudity from below the chest down, which we had not previously discussed or agreed to. Okay. Filming the birth scene took several hours. At many points during filming, I was positioned on my back on a hospital bed with my naked legs spread apart wide in stirrups while non-essential crew passed by. Now, she says naked legs as if she's like naked. You know what I mean? But she was actually, let me move this camera back down. She was actually wearing, briefs, but she fails to mention that. And the way she describes it is going to be interesting here. Other than a strategically placed hospital gown and an exposed nude prosthetic belly during certain shots of the scene, I only wore a small, thin, and flat piece of black fabric to cover my genitalia. Now, a small, thin, and flat piece of black fabric to cover your genitalia is an interesting way to describe women's underpants. Production filmed several angles, including one showing my side profile, as well as my front with simulated nudity from my lower half down. And like when she says naked legs, it's like, if you're wearing shorts, you have naked fucking legs. Again, who cares? I had to request a blanket to be given to me for privacy between takes, which is not always provided. I don't know if that's true or not. Okay. All right. So keep that in mind. Let me give you a little bit of visual here, other than the one that I just gave you. And we're not going to go through the rest of her declaration tonight because there's so much to go over, but that I did want to show you that part before we watch this. Okay. I'm going to move my head while we watch this shit. Hang on. So that you guys can see the whole thing. And I'll probably play it twice because it's only a minute and a half long, just so you can like actually see everything as it was described and as it is in the actual scene. So at no point can you see this woman's vagina or anything like that. Just letting you know. But look out for yourself.
Roll, please. Rolling.
Victoria 106, take off. Camera.
Rolling.
Something the doctor often says is like, do you feel this one coming? Okay.
Set.
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 Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Set. Set. And action.
3, 2, 1.
You feel it coming? Great. Just take a breath.
Oh, how's she doing?
Fully dilated. We're almost there.
Fully dilated. Okay, you got this, baby. Okay.
Nice big breath on 10. She's crowning.
Okay.
Okay, good pushes.
Good.
She's doing great.
Yes.
Here we go. Good. Bear down.
Oh, there she is.
Okay, you don't really need to watch the rest of this because it's mostly just this. But we're going to go back to here. Hang on.
Rolling.
Something the doctor often says is like, do you feel this one coming?
Set. Set.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Set.
Set. And action.
3, 2, 1.
You feel it coming? Great.
Okay. So it's hard to see here, unfortunately, because of this like little bottom bar in the way. But let me see if I can. No, you can't. Hang on. But if you look at it like on mobile or something, you can see that. So underneath this fake belly is just like a pair of underwear, which I do not want to be analyzing this woman's underwear. I really, really don't. Okay. But you can't actually see her body parts. She's wearing black briefs right there. And in the photo she gave to TMZ, they blurred out part of her leg and were like, look, this proves something. But like, dude, they're acting on a birthing scene. See that stomach that's poking out right there that she's complaining about? That's not her stomach. It's fake. So this is absolutely ridiculous. I'm gonna have to watch from the computer, I think. Yeah, you guys have to, I think, watch it probably on your own devices to see. But she has like black briefs on. And like, if that made you uncomfortable, okay, but say that, right? See, like I felt uncomfortable being in just my underwear there, right? Don't say I only had a strip of fabric on, because a strip of fabric in this case is actually like a pair of underwear. So you're kind of misleading with that. That's ridiculous. I see the black shorts. Yeah, I can't see them very well because of the little option bar at the bottom here. But anyways, I just wanted to start with that because you can see now with all of this stuff coming out, like what her declaration is, what the footage actually shows. And this goes back to like the same thing with the dance scene, right? So she's still saying in her declaration, hang on. I already closed it, but she's still saying in her declaration that he said, and after this is, mind you, after she's seen the footage and all of this stuff has come out in public, she's still saying he sniffed me and said it smells so good in reference to my skin, when very clearly in the footage you can see that he was talking about whatever, you know, spray she had on because she said it got all over him, and he's like, oh, it's okay, it smells good. You know, just trying to like relieve some awkwardness there. Oh, sorry, I got my spray tan or whatever it was all over you. He's like, oh no, it's okay, it smells fine, it smells good. So she's still doing this. And so what's ultimately going to be her downfall if this goes to trial, in my opinion, is that she's asking a jury to deceive their eyes and ears when they see this stuff. And that's not going to be a good look. I think anybody who knows me in my personal life would tell you that I give people an exceptional amount of grace. And there are going to be like people who watch my opinion on this case, they don't like it, and so they make lots of assumptions about me. And so, you know, I see all that stuff online or whatever. Honestly, those feelings are not my problem. Anyone who actually knows me would tell you I give people an exceptional amount of grace. I try very hard to be balanced to a fault at the point it almost hurts me a lot of times because I am very hard on myself. But like this woman and her dishonest description of things, and the fact that there's footage online that completely, you know, kind of disputes, or whatever you want to call it, contradicts her narrative. This is what made me have such a strong opinion on this, because it takes me a lot to really like go at somebody and be like, you're lying. This is not okay. What you're doing is fucking wrong. Absolutely not. But when I get there, it's because something is out there that's like undisputable to me. So these kinds of things, that's what pisses me off. So, all right. This was not a party and they ended up like this. It's a fucking film set. Right. They're filming a birthing scene as well. So, anyways, now that this stuff is out here, let's look at some of the stuff that we've been looking to see for a long time, which is the plaintiff's deposition transcripts. Like, so she's had all this stuff sealed for a long time, like her text, her transcripts. And we saw a little bit of the Taylor Swift text earlier, which now all of the exhibits with Taylor Swift text should be in here, which means I should be able to read them to you tonight. But I want to read through the deposition first. Okay. Because, you know, TMZ and all that, they're going to pick up those text messages and they're not going to read through a deposition. So why don't we do right now what the rest of the media will not do? So, okay. Give me 1 second. I gave up on the coffee, guys. I went back to Red Bull. I'm sorry. Wow, you have grown so much. I remember in the early days when you first started covering this, talked about people's comments and not being used to it, and now you don't care. I mean, it's been a year, dude. And thank you very much for that, by the way. It's been a year and a lot of therapy and a lot of other stuff going on in my life. Like, I've had other things going on just like health-wise and personal-wise this year that made me realize like people's rude comments are like not the worst thing in the world. I got people like who like they're on Reddit saying they went to school with me and something, they're like, oh my god, people from her high school, I'm not surprised. You know what I mean? I'm like, literally, you're telling more about yourself than ever about me. So like there's all kinds of weirdo comments about me on the internet. I'm just like, I don't give a shit. That is not my problem. And it's not true. I know it's not true. So who fucking cares? All right. Anyways. Oh shit, TMZ actually calling Taylor a liar. Oh no. You guys know I don't want to hate on Taylor. You guys know this is what I was saying. Like, I give people a lot of grace. I don't want to hate on Taylor. I give people a lot of grace, right? I'm still not at the point where I'm going to be like, Taylor's a, you know what I mean? But okay, anyways, let's not listen to me ramble and we'll read some of this stuff. Okay. 1 second. And we won't get to see her full deposition the way that we saw his, because she leaked his full deposition, right? Like, they weren't supposed to do that. Hold on. I'm trying to read these texts as well from, like, Elsie, Donna, Zach, because they point things out to me on the docket that I should pull up for you guys. Like, Zach has a clear shot of you can see the underwear in the footage we were just seeing. Zach has a clear shot of that, but I can't show you because it's on my phone. So, all right. Now, mind you, some of this stuff, the personally identifying information, confidential information, still sealed by the judge, but the actual substance of these pages will not be. We're only going to see sections of it. We're not going to see the whole thing. They did try to file her full deposition, one time right after, it was like right after the depositions happened. I remember because I was visiting my friend Rachel when that happened. And she asked me about it. And I was just like, yeah, I know. Like, I know they shouldn't have done that, but I want to see it. You know what I mean? So, And the judge struck that down. So we don't get to see her full deposition. We do get to see theirs, which is fucked up in a way, but you know. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna skim over like this stupid background stuff that I don't really care about. And then also remember, some pages will be cut off. So they're asking, it looks here like they're asking, did you know who Justin Baldoni was? She says, I was aware of him. How were you aware of him? I am friends with and follow Liz Plank, who does a podcast with him, and I follow an account called Celebrity Kind, who has featured him before. That was the extent of my awareness. Okay. Blake says she first met Liz Plank around 2020. They have mutual friends. She doesn't remember how they met. Let's see. Who are your mutual friends? Blake says Kate Vorhoff, Justin Trudeau. They're people that with more degrees of separation that we have run in the same circles as. What? Whatever. Now, I understand that you had heard Justin Baldoni was involved in the film. What did you learn about what his involvement was? Blake says, I learned that he was the director and was to star as the male lead in the film, as well as retaining the rights, as Warren described. Warren, I believe, was her agent at WME. Is that right? You guys can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think, whatever. Literally every few words you cut out. Is anyone else having that experience? Like, is my audio fucked up? If it is, I'll try to fix it, but if it's not, then I won't bother. Hang on. Just let me know. Let's see. Did you have any concern prior to accepting the role that would be some sort of an issue? That he would be both the lead actor and also, be the director? She says, I have worked with actors before who have been both the actor and director, so it's not necessarily an immediate concern, but there are many factors at play with each person. Okay. And were there factors at play specifically with Mr. Baldoni as the male lead and the director during that time? She says, specific to him, not necessarily. Every job, you have to consider all elements and all factors. Well, thank you for the vague dressing on the word salad, ma'am. Okay. Prior to accepting the role to play Lily Bloom, had you met Justin? She says, yes. On how many occasions? 1. Where was that meeting? In New York City, in my apartment. It was a couple hours long. It was in December of 2022. Okay. No sound issues. Clearing out YouTube, fix it. Okay, good. I just like to ask because one of my microphones is absolute dog shit. So, yeah. There is a YouTube problem where you sometimes do have to refresh and shit like that. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. How was it determined the meeting would take place at your apartment? She says, agents from my end. Don't know about anyone else's. Do you recall the day you actually met Justin at your apartment? Are you asking about the date? The lawyer says yes. Blake says no, she doesn't recall. Okay. It was during the day. Who was present at the meeting? She says, well, the two of us, I guess she means her and Justin, but there were many people present. My sister was there. My family was there. We have employees coming in and out constantly. Her husband was also there, per what we've seen. And also remember, this meeting before she took the role is the controversial circumcision comment that he made that all the TMZ people were like freaking out about. Dude, she's talking about her soon-to-be firstborn son. And he mentions something about circumcision in that conversation. And she tries to make that some sort of weird sexual thing now in retrospect. So I guess maybe they're going to ask her about that. But unfortunately, the page is cut off, so we can't see everything, which I think is unfair. Frankly, I think because she leaked their depositions improperly when she was not supposed to do that, I think that everybody should be able to see hers. But that's not how the world works. So, I think that's only fair. Let's see, what page was this? It was 29. We're skipping ahead to 49. Do you believe you were personally sexually harassed in connection with the making of the film It Ends With Us? Blake says yes. Who do you believe sexually harassed you? She says Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath. Anyone else? Okay, so the lawyer asks anyone else. And she says, if you're asking if my gender played a role in the behavior towards me, I would add Steve Sarowitz to that. What? How did Steve Sarowitz sexually harass you? Blake says he was the chairman of the studio, is my understanding. And this is the studio that I was raising concerns with. And instead of addressing concerns, I believe that I was dismissed. And so to use my own description, I do believe my gender played a role in how I was treated. Hey, word salad. Like what? What part of that means Steve Sarowitz sexually harassed you? What part of that are you talking about? My God. Somebody says, why the hell are there 30 pages missing? There's going to be a lot more than 30 pages missing in this. Let's see. And after this, we'll read her PGA letter, which is just amazing. Amazing. Because she's trying to convince and say that she was powerless and therefore an employee, and therefore these California laws should apply to her, that only apply to employees and not independent contractors, while admitting to the PGA that she basically took over the film, did everything, said she took over HR, like rewrote the script, all this crazy ass stuff. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself, so I really need to chill out. Okay. Anyways, how did Steve Sarowitz sexually harass you? And that's what she answers with, which makes no fucking sense at all, but totally makes sense if you know her. Did you ever discuss with Steve Sarowitz that you felt the fact that you were sexually harassed? No. Well, okay. Did Steve Sarowitz ever say anything to you that you felt was inappropriate or made you uncomfortable? To me? No. But you said he sexually harassed you. Ma'am. The lady who subpoenaed my bank account information, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what the fuck are you doing? It's very clear to me that she's paranoid and that she says all kinds of random crap that she believes, but doesn't necessarily have any evidence to get there. Wow. Okay. This is all making sense to me, but did Steve Sarowitz affirmatively do anything himself that made you feel uncomfortable or felt was inappropriate? Blake says, I felt him attending the birthing scene was inappropriate. Okay, remember, Steve Sarowitz was there on the day of the birthing scene, was not there watching the birthing scene, like literally on the set. The set is like a specific area of the whole like production area. He was probably in that production area, like around the tents where people hang out when they're not filming, you know, shit like that. He signed in that day, but he was not literally sitting there watching the fucking birthing film. And she's like, well, he was there that day. Okay, well, you were there in New York on 9/11. So just saying, I mean, right? We're making those kinds of, connecting those dots. I mean, Jesus. All right. I mean, that was a little extreme. I probably shouldn't have used that as an example, but like, okay. All right. Anyways, you get my point. I felt him attending the birthing scene was inappropriate. When was the birthing scene? May of 2023. What did Justin Baldoni do to sexually harass you? She says, can you be more specific? What do you mean? Okay. You're claiming Justin Baldoni sexually harassed you, correct? She says, yes, it's a long complaint. Oh, I know. Is that a yes? Yes. What did he do to sexually harass you? She says, there was a series of things. Okay. Do you recall the first thing he did when you felt you were sexually harassed? She says, there were things that he said and did where at the time, you feel confused by someone's behavior or words being at odds with who they say they are. And you start to see different pieces come together and the workplace feels overwhelming. So there were different moments. So, Jesus. Lady, this isn't a hard question. This is not a hard question. Also, she and the other women whose depositions we've read, like no one else has really accused him of sexual harassment. Even Jenny Slate, who complained about the sexy comment when he was talking about the pants that her character was wearing, said, no, I don't want to file a complaint. I know it wasn't sexual. You know what I mean? It wasn't sexual. I wasn't sexually harassed. But anyways, the answer to that question, let me just one more time, in case anyone else is as confused as I am. Do you recall the first thing that Justin did where you felt you were sexually harassed? Blake says, there were things he said and did where at the time you feel confused by someone's behavior or words being at odds with who they say they are. And you start to see different pieces come together and the workplace feels overwhelming. So there were different moments. Can someone please tell me why this bitch needed my credit card number for this? I mean, what the hell is happening? My God. Okay. What is the first thing that you recall? She says, I recall him telling me that he's circumcised, right? When did he tell you that? In December of 2022. And where were you physically when he told you that? She says, at my apartment. Was that the same meeting we were previously discussing? She says, yes, it was the same meeting. How did that come up? Were you discussing something or it just came up out of the blue? She says, I was pregnant. I didn't know the gender of my child. Okay. And we were discussing different decisions that parents make and different factors, having boys versus girls. I only had girls. and we were discussing the different medical decisions. So we're acknowledging this isn't a sex thing. Medical decisions people make these days, including circumcision for male babies. So she's discussing with him circumcision for male babies. No wonder she wanted to keep this shit sealed for so long. My God. And did he bring that up or did you bring it up? She says, I don't remember. Huh. That's very convenient. Wow. Okay. What did he say about circumcision? He told me the decision that they made for their child, they being him and his wife, Emily, and then offered that he was circumcised. This is not really that weird or creepy. Like, parents have these conversations, dude. Holy shit. And she actually represented intentionally that he just randomly offered up that he was circumcised, like, hey, baby, I ain't got no sheath on this sword. You know what I mean? Like, there was, what the fuck? She knew all this context the entire time, but intentionally represented that he was just like, hey, by the way, I got snipped. I got snipped, girl. Don't know if you're into that. But since we're already in your house, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Jesus. This chick sucks. All right. Anyways. And did you say anything in response to that? She says, I was in shock. You say you were in shock. You couldn't speak? Or she says, I don't know. I don't know what I said or did. Did you tell him you were offended by it? No. Maybe because that's weird. Did you discuss with anyone the fact that you were offended by him saying that? Yes. Who did you discuss that with? My husband. Her husband, who all communications between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, which if you've seen the very little bit of text I went over between Blake and Taylor earlier today, we'll give you a little preview of what kinds of text those would be. She has asserted marital privilege over all their communications to the point we cannot see their text messages. They cannot ask them about that stuff. And like they confirmed in these documents, Ms. Lively has decided to assert marital privilege. So like there's could be like a fuckload of shit between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds that we'll just never get to see. And we're supposed to believe. Okay. Can you be more specific? She's asking. About him being circumcised. Okay. About him being circumcised, that's all I remember. That's page 54. So they skipped a page here, but it's fine. Did his comment in any way cause you to reconsider whether you wanted to do the film or not? Blake says, I found it disturbing, but given that it was one comment and he seemed nice, I wrote it off as him taking a benign conversation too far and hoped and assumed it would be an isolated incident. And let me tell you, like, what we've learned about Justin, like, some people who are neurodivergent will do that from time to time. Frankly, I'm a chronic oversharer. I think a lot of people would tell you that. But I am nice. And sometimes I take benign conversations too far. You know, it's not sexual harassment. I don't mean to, but it's like, don't pick up on those things. You know what I mean? And her lawyers badgered the shit out of him about his neurodivergence in his deposition. So, like, you got to say, like, impulsive speech and not picking up on things like that. That's all part of the deal when it comes to that kind of condition. And it bothers me a lot that they like to talk about him as if he's like this nefarious, horrible sexual harasser when this is what happened. Taking a benign conversation too far. Okay. Did you ever tell him that he had taken that comment, and by making the comment he had taken that too far? Yes. Okay, when did you tell him that? Me personally? What do you mean you personally? Yes. I believe the date was January 4th, 2023. Okay, so that you remember. It's very specific. Okay. January 4th, had you told him that he had taken that too far and that was an inappropriate comment? She says yes. And I think that was the day of that meeting in her penthouse or whatever, Buckingham Palace or whatever Taylor Swift says they call it. Was that the day of the meeting? You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Okay. That specific comment, yes. Okay. She says no, she never brought it up to him prior to January 4th. The attorney, Brian Friedman, we can assume, because we know that he conducted her deposition. She was demanding that Brian Friedman not be the one to conduct her deposition, and that didn't work out in her favor. So is there a reason why you didn't say that to him? Blake says, there's a lot of reasons. He was my boss. Except he wasn't. He wasn't your boss. And also, you had total control over him. So that's ridiculous. He was your boss at that time? Not at that moment, but later. You asked why I didn't say something later. Is there a reason you didn't say something at that time? She says, I believe I already answered that question. Answer it again. Did you discuss with Warren Zavala that comment that was made? She says, I don't believe so, but I don't recall. Did you discuss with anyone else that represents you, like your manager or your agents or anyone else, that he had made that comment? Ezra Hudson, of course, says, well, objection, to the extent that question calls for attorney-client privilege communications. And we see a lot of that in all these deposition transcripts, so whatever. If you can answer that question without, and then, of course, it skips ahead 5 pages. So from what I can infer here, or maybe if infer is not the right word, but from what I can tell here, they're asking about why she didn't like read the book, right? And she's saying, what works better for me is to not read the book in advance because it's hard for me to see the blind spots in the film because you can't unlearn what you know from a book. You can't fill in story or character holes from what you know from a book. So I like to look at the film as its own piece to make sure that it works on its own. And I mean, honestly, okay, that right there, that doesn't actually bother me. I know that bothers a lot of people. That specific thing right there, that doesn't bother me. So I want to be fair, and like some of that stuff, like her not reading the book, I'm kind of like, whatever to an extent, because what bothers me is the false accusations of sexual harassment. It's not that she didn't read the book, you know what I mean? But I understand why people are upset about that, especially from someone who took over the film and insisted on all of this stuff. So anyways, I have to kind of pick my battles, right? And I didn't pick that one. So in April of 2023, did you know there were sex scenes in the novel? It ends with us. She says, yes. And did you know what sex scenes there were? She says, I don't understand your question. What do you mean you don't understand the question? The book It Ends With Us has sex scenes within the book, correct? She says, I believe so, yes. You're not sure though, right? She says, I know there are sex scenes in the book, yes. Did you read the book? No. How do you know that there are sex scenes in the book? And then it skips ahead some pages, so it kind of interestingly goes to, hi, good afternoon. Okay. So I guess they come back from a break or something, and this skips ahead a bunch of pages. I just want to walk through some of the other allegations of sexual harassment. One of the things that's alleged in the amended complaint is, I believe, that you're saying that Justin complimented your outfit. Is that correct? She says, no. Are you saying that one of the instances of sexual harassment or something that made you otherwise uncomfortable was one day in which Justin commented how much he liked your outfit? No. Did Justin ever say anything inappropriate or that bothered you concerning an outfit that you wore? She says, there was an incident that made me uncomfortable. Yes. It was in late May of 2023. Okay. It took place on a set, a bar scene where we were rehearsing. Okay. That was that bar scene. She says, no, we were rehearsing that scene, but no, it was not the scene. It was when I arrived to work. Okay. And then the lawyer says, can you tell me what happened? She says, can you be more specific? Sorry. What about whatever happened there made you feel uncomfortable? She says, I had a newborn baby and I had a jacket on that was covering my dress underneath, and I bent down to pick something up and the jacket opened. And my dress was low cut because it was easier to feed my baby. Mr. Baldoni said in front of, Justin said in front of, I remember in front of Jenny Slate, and I don't remember specifically who else was there, but he said, I like your outfit, and gestured at the chest. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? When somebody's your bitch eating crackers, and I've explained to you guys what a bitch eating cracker is, right? It's like, you don't like somebody, they creeped you out, and then so all of a sudden, everything they do is super annoying, super terrible, right? He's her bitch eating crackers. And so now he says, I like your outfit. And since he's her bitch eating crackers, she's like, well, he might as well have asked me to lick cookie dough off a spoon. Like, what the fuck? My God. That's ridiculous. You just made a movement of your hand. She says, yes. It's hard for the court reporter to mark that down. What do you mean he made a gesture of his hand and said, I like your chest? He gestured across the chest. The lawyer says, did he gesture across your chest or his chest? He said, I like your outfit. Her response to that question, did he gesture across your chest or his, is he said, I like your outfit. Answer the question. He moved his hand up and down like above and below his chest or your chest. She says, I was standing in front of him, so I don't know whose chest, but he didn't touch my chest. What do you mean you don't know whose chest? You're the one saying he gestured to the chest. What? My Lord. You know what you're talking about. Okay. Somebody said good callback to Isabella's depo. I'm glad somebody picked up on that. If you guys were here earlier when I went over that, in Isabella Ferrer's deposition, she complained that Justin Baldoni, as the director, instructing her as an actor, suggested that in the scene where they were making, she and the prospective boyfriend or whatever were making cookie dough together, that she licked the cookie dough off the spoon. And so that's where that came from. This is actually dumb as fuck. I'm sorry. This is so fucking dumb. All right. I was standing in front of him, so I don't know whose chest, but he didn't touch my chest, if that's what you're asking. When he made the gesture in front of his chest, was his arm closer to his chest or closer to your chest? I don't recall. And what were you doing during this time? Was it during a rehearsal or of some sort? We weren't rehearsing the scene yet, but I was on the set to rehearse the scene. Okay. And who else was present, if anyone? The person I remember most is obviously, and then it cuts off. So it could have been like her sister or something. Because her sister was on the film set. Do you recall an instance like that? I don't know what the instance is because it cuts off. So that's the first line that we can see of this page. She says, yes, those words were used. I have a lot of recollection of, in general, words like that being used. The lawyer says, do you have a specific recollection of a day, time, or scene that Justin had used those words? Okay. Blake says they would be used in the context of the film. Scenes that needed to be sexy, characters or wardrobe. Yeah, that would be used in that way. That never made me uncomfortable. Okay. Friedman says, okay, is it fair to say at any time that Justin either used the term sexy or hot that didn't make you feel uncomfortable? Is that correct? She says, that's not what I said. It is, though. It is literally what you just said. Okay, let's go back. Do you have a specific recollection of the day or time Justin used those words? They would be used in the context of the film and scenes that needed to be sexy, characters, or wardrobe. Yeah, that would be used in that way. That never made me uncomfortable. The lawyer says, so it's fair to say that anytime he used sexy or hot, that didn't make you feel uncomfortable. Is that correct? So that's not what I said. Okay, so I read that wrong. So she's not saying she was never uncomfortable when he said that, but she wasn't uncomfortable in those instances. Okay, so that actually was my bad. Okay. And has Justin ever used the term sexy or hot where it made you feel uncomfortable? She says, yes. The bar set. Okay. The bar was set for the film. It was a real bar, but it was used as the location of the movie. Right. Let's see. There was a table we were all acting around that was probably in the middle of the bar, but we hadn't begun the scene yet. So we were in the midst of the bar scene. Okay, the bar set. What happened specifically? She says, with what? What do you mean with what? With him using the term sexy or hot. Okay. Here's her description of events. She says, he asked me to remove a coat that I was wearing, which was a wardrobe coat, which was a part of the look that had been photographed and shared for that scene. And when I arrived to set, he asked me once I was on set amongst others, I remember once again, Jenny Slate standing there and he said, can you take off your coat? So he was trying to say basically that looks hot, like temperature wise. And that turned into like a bad joke, basically. But anyways, she says, I thought that it was more interesting outfit to wear the coat. I thought it was more eclectic and dynamic. We've all seen her fashion sense in that movie. And I'm not a fashion icon by any means, but like, dude, that was bad. And he said, well, we want to see it without the coat. Well, he's the fucking director. So take off your coat. Like, don't make it weird. You know what I mean? Like, it's not weird. Don't make it weird. So I took the coat off. And under the coat, I was wearing a onesie that was zipped low with a lace bra peeking out, because the scene after this is a sex scene, or a hookup scene rather, and he asked me to take off the coat, and I'm standing amongst many cast and crew and extras, and I felt on display, and he said, I think you look sexy. And I said, that's not what I'm going for. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, hot. And I said, not that either. And then he said, well, I guess I missed the HR meeting. So he admitted to making the joke about missing the HR meeting, but he describes this as the opposite interaction. So he says, basically, he said she looked hot, like literally hot. That was my understanding of things. Again, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. My understanding was he literally said, you look hot, temperature hot, right? And then she's like, oh, no, I'm fine, because she doesn't want to take the coat off or whatever. And he says, oh, she says, that's not what I was going for. Not going for hot, because she thought that he meant hot. You know what I mean? And so he goes, oh, sexy, which is, yeah, okay, awkward, right? Awkward thing to say. Not a sexual predator. Awkward guy, maybe. But not a sexual predator. He describes that the opposite way than she does. So it's a he said, she said situation at that point. He did admit to making the joke about the HR meeting. He said the reason he made the joke is that he did not miss the HR meeting, which I'm sorry, but like I know lots of people who make jokes like that. And it has nothing to do with like sex or sexual comments. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat here. But it has nothing to do with like sexual comments, but like he's just like an awkward guy. Hang on. I'm trying to pull up whatever just I like totally missed my there's something else that just came up on the docket. That's what I'm trying to find out. So bear with me for 1 second here. Oh, okay. So I forgot they also had to file the documents related to the spoliation sanctions. So there's even more stuff I haven't even seen, guys. Like a lot of fucking stuff right here. Anyways. Moving on, because I lost my train of thought anyways. Okay, and looked at me. I remember him being aware of Jenny Slate and getting a little huffy and walked off. Huffy? That's what I call my dog, Mr. Huffy. Because he does this thing when I, like, if I have, like, a little crumb of food or something, or a treat or something that I want to give him, he goes, he does a little huff. I call him Mr. Huffy. So that's kind of funny. And I performed the scene without the coat. Okay. And then there is a skip here to page 125 from page 102. But hang on, there was something about text that I wanted to pull up here. What docket number is this? 1245-79. All right. Do you guys want to read the text now and then finish the deposition, or finish the deposition now and then read the text? Let me do. Wow. Sorry, I'm reading these texts that I got about the Taylor stuff. Josh Greenstein is wildly inappropriate. There's a lot of stuff here, guys, that we haven't seen, apparently. So, Lauren is so gay. I mean, that's true. I'm about as gay as Omar's dogs, guys. Read the texts. Okay, I'm going to put a poll here for you guys. Do you want to do the text now and finish the deposition after, or do you want to do the deposition now? Okay. And then that way I can take a sip of water and kind of relax for 30 seconds without talking. Hang on. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to do this poll that I just put in the chat. And then whatever you guys vote on, that's what we'll go with. But give me like a 45-second poll break. How about that? So give me 1 second. I'm just going to drink some water and like breathe for a second because this is a lot. I've been doing a lot today. It's been almost an hour tonight even, so. See, while you're voting, like the video too. You guys are champs. I got so many nice people here who help out because I forget stuff like that, right? Somebody says Andy read a few earlier. I read those ones too. They were in they were quoted texts in one of the statements, but the actual text messages are out now. So we're split like not evenly, but it's a little more to read the text than finish the depo. So here's what we'll do. I'll pull up the text, we'll read those, and then we'll come back to the deposition. I will do both, though. So don't worry. I'm not going to, like, leave and not do both, right? I'm going to do both. So, okay. Let's see. We got to find that first. Let me show you how that happens. If you guys don't know this already, this is how you find for free. You find the documents. So I get them off of Pacer before they're on these crawler sites. But if you want to wait until they're on the crawler sites, you get them for free. So because I don't want to lose my place on what we were just reading, what I'm going to do now is go to the crawler site and find that specific exhibit. Okay. And these are the documents that just came out that I don't have yet because we're reading right now. I'll probably pre-record something to go out in the morning for you guys while I'm flying out to New York. Let's see. Let's see. Where were we on this? Declaration of Shapiro. So it's going to be one of these. And then what was the exhibit number? Let me ask again. Not ask, but look. It was 1245.79. So I know that one's got to be in there. There we go. Okay. Okay. So here's some. I guess this must be some of them, and we'll continue to like look through them. But all right. Okay. I don't know what this is. Oh, wow. So I guess this person's sender. Oh, this is SA here is Taylor Swift. Wow. Oh. Okay, so this is April 2024. Taylor Swift says, "Oh my God, I just saw the above text and link. Gonna watch now. Oh my God, it's amazing. So sorry, I was in a daze and I didn't see the first text. Wow, I love how they use the song Welcome to Hollywood, Justin." And I don't know if that is meant facetiously or not. Maybe it is. Blake says, "I'm not okay. I can't breathe. I'm obsessed with you. I've never felt more like Khaleesi. I have dragons." Stop calling yourself Khaleesi. Didn't she do incest or something? Well, I guess Blake Lively did that in Another Simple Favor too. So, or Another Simple Favor or whatever it is. Except my dragons are bred with Cersei herself. I didn't watch Game of Thrones, guys, so I don't know what the fuck that means. Taylor says, "I'm just picturing you muttering, is it Dracarys? I don't know how you pronounce that." And then I fire off those texts to Austin. By the way, if Justin was strategic, he would be like, "No Taylor Swift in the trailer because that gives you more power over the film. That's your ally, not his." Blake says, "Get yourself a best friend who thinks like the actual Roman Empire." Taylor Swift says, "His misogyny runs so deep, he thinks women are incapable of winning chess matches or making long game power plays." No, Taylor. This is the type of guy who's just not playing fucking chess games. And like, I'm not, for the last time, I'm not a Taylor Swift hater. I'm not. But seeing these text messages is very disappointing. Wow. Blake says, "You are so right and so wickedly smart to call it. He should have run from your music. I never thought about that, but holy shit, how stupid. This was his only shot at having the appearance of an upper hand." Damn. Whew, okay. And I don't know if those are the only texts between Blake and Taylor, but those are the only exhibit numbers I had so far. Hang on, let me see. So Taylor knew about the dragon thing. I'm reading our group text I have with Zach, Andy, Donna, and Elsie. So I guess that is all we're looking at right now. Holy shit, what? There's so much stuff going on right now, guys. Exhibit 46, text messages. What is Exhibit 46? Okay, well, I can't see Exhibit 46, so I don't know what the fuck that is. Oh, that might be Wayfarer's Exhibit 46. Or Blake's Exhibit 46. I'm not sure. Let's see. No, that wouldn't be it, would it? Let me look. Somebody sent me this and was like, "This is so racist," but I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. This isn't it. What I'm looking at right now. Let me pull it up for you guys. This is so racist. I don't know what it is. So let me pull it up. 1245-20. Oh, okay, I see. Okay. Okay. Oh, and these are also with Taylor, I guess. Because it says essay. Oh, no, sender not available doesn't mean Taylor, but it does. You know what I mean? Okay. You were so... oh, these are text messages with Taylor because we saw this earlier in the 56.1. Okay. She's saying to Taylor, you were so epically heroic today. And let me make sure you guys can read that. Yeah. You were so epically heroic today. I recapped every moment to Ryan. I kept remembering stuff. You making shit up about me and lenses and referring to yourself as my doll. This clown, Justin, falling for all of it, but also resisting it. You were the world's absolute greatest friend ever. I won the lottery. Taylor says, I won the lottery. You are the coolest person in the world and you like me. And then there is a picture of Aladdin there. I don't know why. A gif of Aladdin or whatever. Blake says, the most bonkers part to me is him saying to you he doesn't know pop culture made me more mad than anything he's done to me. I don't know what the fuck this is referencing. Him saying to you he doesn't know pop culture. Okay, wait. Okay, so Blake is saying to Taylor, Justin saying that he doesn't know pop culture made Blake more mad than anything Justin's done to her. Okay. Blake says his entire brand is disassembling toxic masculinity. He monetizes it. Hold on. You monetize everything, Blake. I mean, what is this? So using they monetize it is such a dumb, shitty thing to say. Everybody monetizes everything. We all have to make a living. Doesn't mean you don't mean it. Doesn't mean you don't care about what you do. Doesn't mean you don't like it. Okay. The Constitution and freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and all that. It doesn't come with a retail price. I don't fucking care if you monetize your comment. It doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, so she says he does TED Talks, but says that to you. Not only is it so rude, but it's untrue. So basically she's saying here, how dare he not know everything about pop culture? Okay. The thing that enraged me is you are an absolute league of your own in being both the most popular artist alive and one of all time, but also the most respected and awarded. Popularity doesn't normally coincide with laurels. Lady. My God. Steven Spielberg, for example, there's one. Do you think for a moment he would have felt comfortable saying that to him, even if he didn't know his work? You would never have made a point to say to Steven Spielberg about his work that you don't know it because you don't know pop culture. So Justin, I guess, didn't know something about Taylor Swift because he doesn't know pop culture that well. And Blake and Taylor were like wildly offended by this, which is just fucking dumb, to be honest. Like, not everybody's going to know everything. We all have gaps in our knowledge. Frankly, I don't know everything about some of my favorite actors, actresses, singers, all that, bands, whatever, either. Get the fuck over yourself. Like, you're not that important. I understand that she's a very famous person, but actually, outside of her super fandom, not everybody has to know every single goddamn thing about her. Like, and that sucks. Because for the last time, and I'm going to say it again, because the most hateful, psychotic comments I get are from Taylor Swift fans. I am not a Taylor Swift hater, okay? I don't like the way she's talking here, but I reserve considerable judgment for everybody until I can't anymore, basically. There has to be considerable evidence that there is no other possibility before I condemn someone, right? And so I'm saying right here, like, she's talking to her friend about someone that her friend says has mistreated her, and so I'm reserving a little bit of judgment for the remote possibility that she was just trying to help her friend who said she was in a stressful or distressing situation. Now, I respect everyone's position on this, that they're outraged and think that Taylor's a terrible person. I do respect those opinions because I can absolutely see where they're coming from. I'm not quite there yet. So I will say that. But seriously, I swear to God, I'm going to get dozens and dozens and dozens of hate comments and death threats from Taylor Swift fans for this. Just for saying she might be in the wrong, you know? She might be in the wrong because of these text messages, right? Focus, Lauren. Why would you say focus to Lauren? Why would you say that to me? Okay. Oh, okay. Aladdin was the racism, Justin is Iranian. Okay. So I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I just thought when I see Aladdin gif, I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever. Right. I just think Disney Channel or whatever, Disney movies. I didn't actually think about that, but okay. All right. Anyways, Blake says, I've been raging ever since, even though I know it all comes from what you said perfectly. He just so wants to be in the room, but has to act like he doesn't. I see it. I understand it's opposite day with him. He's so green. He thinks that's what makes him cool enough to fit in. when in fact it's fucking enthusiasm, fandom, and respect for those killing it that shows you're confident with where you are in life. What? That's all he ever does is like hype these people up. What are they talking about? He so wants to be in the... So they're saying basically he so wants to fit in, but he doesn't. And they're complaining about that. Like they're in fucking high school. She says, okay, Blake is just like going on and on and on here. There's one text message from Taylor in this entire thread, which, don't get me wrong, I've sent threads like this to people that I know very well and am very close to, where I'm just like, I'm venting, you know what I mean? But still, she says, Blake says, I've also been raging at the NYU thing. I honestly want to retroactively take you out to dinner to celebrate that. You deserve to be studied. You were human masterclass. Fuck yes, they see it. I've been digging up hatchets. I'll stop now. I love you. And I guess that's Ryan, and my babies, and get more protective about your hearts than mine sometimes. I'm so much less forgiving when it comes to someone messing with someone I love than when someone messes with me. Not knowing something about Taylor Swift's career is not messing with her, you fucking narcissist. What is wrong with you guys? I'm done. I just love you, and I'm so ecstatic for you and grateful to you for today. That was stupid fun. So they had fun, I guess, when this clown was falling for all of it. Oh, yikes. Yeah, that's a terrible look for both of them. I'm so unimpressed, but all right. My God. I think those are all the texts we're going to read right now. We'll go back to the deposition. Hang on. Okay, we'll close that. And here we were. This is where we left off, right? Okay, so we're talking about, I don't know yet because it skipped ahead a bunch of pages, but it was 102 and now it's 125. He came into your trailer, so I'm assuming they're talking about either Jamie or Justin, which is not surprising. Give me 1 second. Okay. Was the trailer unlocked? She says, I don't know if it was unlocked at that point. He attempted to come in and we stopped him from coming in. Obviously you didn't. Okay. When you say we, who are you referring to? She says, my hair and makeup artist. Did you have your security there at the time? She says, in my trailer? No. Outside your trailer? I don't know where they were standing at that moment. Okay. The name of your security person is Kevin, correct? Okay. She says, we have different people who rotate. But was there always someone, a security person outside your trailer? She says, not necessarily stationed right outside of my hair and makeup door, they patrol. Okay. Do you know, as you sit here today, do you recall that specific second day of production, whether or not there was security outside your trailer? She says, I don't recall, no. I was inside the trailer, so I wouldn't have seen who was standing there. Okay. Did you ever call for security or ask for security to come in and take Jamie away? No. How long was Jamie in your trailer? I don't know, but I would say around 5 minutes. And what was discussed during the 5 minutes he was in your trailer? She says, we were meant to have a production meeting that night, and he came to my trailer as I was. We were going to have a production meeting in my trailer. Okay, one more time. We were meant to have a production meeting that night, and he came to my trailer as I was. We were going to have a production meeting in my trailer. Okay? And he came to the hair and makeup trailer as I was getting my body makeup removed and my wig off. And so then I could wrap out hair and makeup and then I could go into my own trailer and have a meeting with them. Like, there's a lot of word salad going on here. I don't know if you guys can tell from the M dashes or whatever, but like, I was getting my body makeup removed, my wig off so that I could wrap out my hair and makeup and then I could go into my own trailer and I have a meeting with them. Okay, sure. He unexpectedly came to my trailer, knocked on the door, said, we've got to talk. She said, this is Blake Lively's words. I said, we can't talk right now. I'll be there in a few minutes. I'm getting done as fast as I can so we can have this meeting. Jamie says, oh no, we've got to talk now. Again, it's another he said, she said situation. Very different stories on all sides. Okay. From where? The witness. From where? Witness. We've got to talk now. Where? I said, I'll meet you in there in a minute. I'm undressed. I'm getting ready for the meeting. I'll be there in just a minute. And that meeting was very important to me because it was to discuss other behavior I had experienced earlier that day that was concerning to me. So I said, okay, fine. You can come. Wait. So he said, we got to talk. And she said, okay, fine. You can come in. And that's what she's complaining about. Okay, fine. You can come in. What? Okay, so she's admitting, she said, okay, fine, you can come in. And he came in and I said, okay, you can come in, but please don't look. Can you turn around? So he turned around and he faced the wall. And I was in front of the hair and makeup mirror as my team was working. They call it double teaming when they're both working at the same time to either get you ready or disassemble you. And I was helping as well so that we could work quickly. And Jamie said that the meeting had to happen on my time. The meeting we were about to have, because of my turnaround, which is the time, from the time that I am done with work until the time I start again, my turnaround was 12 hours. And he said, this meeting has to be on your clock. We don't have time for this. And she's like making these demands and shit like that. So they're trying to accommodate her as best as possible. And she's like, sure, come into the trailer. Okay. All right. Let's see. And I said, this isn't a personal meeting. This is a production meeting to discuss how to make the set better and smoother. So she said she was going to raise some personal grievances or something, or said she had something personal to talk to them about, some personal issue. She, as Blake Lively, the actress, does not get to unilaterally call production meetings. That's not how that works. I mean, what the fuck? All right. Sorry, let me move these tabs. Okay. And he was arguing for it to be on my personal time. And I said, my personal time is important to me because I have a newborn baby. When I go home, I prepare for the next day. I feed my baby. I work out. I have a lot of responsibilities. I really need my time. And this is not a personal meeting. It's a production meeting. Okay, so you have something that you personally want to talk about. And it's not the producers and all that. They're not calling a meeting. You are personally calling a meeting. It needs to happen on your time. Because she has already forced them to change the location for the production and all this kind of shit. Or they, technically they agreed to it. Okay, fine. So I'll give her that. They agreed to accommodate her by changing the location for production and all this crazy ass shit. And it's just so nuts that she doesn't understand why that should happen on her personal time. And so she's like, okay, fine, come in and talk to me. And then she's like shocked that he came in and talked to her. I want to point out here, Wanderer 2013 says TMZ covered Taylor's text an hour ago, and even them were in total shock. For the first time, TMZ had no way to spin a story in favor of Blake or Taylor. It's that bad. It really is that bad, dude. It's ugly. It is ugly. Okay. All right. Anyways. I understand that she has a lot of stuff to do in her personal time because she had a newborn and all that, but still, if she wants to call a meeting because she has a personal grievance, she needs to do it on her personal time. That's that. That's the job. Sucks. I really need my time, and this is not a personal meeting. It's a production meeting. You don't get to, again, unilaterally declare that it's a production meeting. That's not a thing. Okay. And as I'm having this negotiation with him, I turn to him, and he's staring straight at me. He's no longer facing the wall. He's staring straight at me. And I said, Jamie, what are you doing? You said you would turn around. Jamie, she's quoting Jamie here. Oh, sorry. I like to make eye contact with people when I talk to them, which is a fucking reasonable thing to do. It's reasonable. Especially if you're hearing something shocking from someone or something confusing or you're like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like a natural human reflex to look at that person when they're talking to you, to have a human reaction and be like, what? What the hell, dude? Okay. And I said, Jamie, what are you doing? You said you would turn around. Oh, sorry. I like to make eye contact with people when I talk to them. And I said, you need to leave. And so he left the trailer, right? So you said he needed to leave. He left. Okay. And I finished getting ready. I was incredibly shaken. Why? You were incredibly shaken because somebody looked at you while you were talking? PGA letter contradicts all this. We're going to do the PGA letter next. Don't worry. We're going to do that. Lauren just made eye contact with the camera. SH sanctions jail. Please put me in jail so I don't have to read any more of this. No, I'm kidding. Anyways. Okay. The women who did my hair and makeup were shaken as well. I mean, honestly, dude, they're your hair and makeup people. And they're going to go with your version of events. So I'm not shocked by that. And then I finished doing my work and I went in and I took the meeting. Okay. Friedman says, when you said he was looking at you, was he looking in your eyes or somewhere else? Blake says, well, when I turned, he was fully facing me and I was topless. Okay. She says she was topless, but she wasn't like boobs out topless. You know what I mean? Like she had like a thing over her. From the best of my recollection from reading all this stuff was that she was like having her makeup removed. And so she had like a thing like over her body. Like this is kind of like the underwear thing from the very beginning of the stream where she says she was naked in the birthing scene. No, you had underwear on. Like she wasn't like naked, right? Okay. So I don't know all of the contours of my body that his eyes were on. Brian says, and when you were topless, did you have body makeup on? She says, yes. And as you sit here today, you don't. And then the page cuts off, unfortunately, because like I said, they leaked all of Justin and Jamie's deposition, but Blake Lively is super special. And so her full deposition doesn't have to be posted. Okay. So we're talking about one of the sex scenes from what I gather here. Brian says, to why those sex scenes existed, anyone? What did Justin say about why they existed? Blake says, the character's climaxing at the same time. He told me that he and his wife orgasm at the same time and asked me if my husband and I do the same. So that's a very different conversation than the one portrayed by Justin Baldoni. So again, it comes down to he said, she said. For me, my decision and my, idea personally is based on the fact that, one, I've seen footage that Blake Lively was not telling the truth about what happened. And two, she personally tried to subpoena me because she thinks I was part of a paid smear campaign when I started covering this case because I was a fan of hers. So when it comes to he said, she said, you guys know where I'm going with this one. Okay? All right. When I said the scenes felt pornographic, he said, he shared with me that he, as he put it, had been previously addicted to pornography, so he understood it very well, and that the scenes were not in fact pornographic. Wait, this is the pornography addiction conversation? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh god, okay. She makes it sound like, in all these documents that he just out of nowhere came up with the pornography addiction thing. Okay, so she's trying to explain to him, the scenes feel pornographic, even though that's what, the book has tons of fucking smut in it, where it's like a porno book, right? From what I've heard from every single person who's read it, right? And then they have all these scenes that Sony wants them to do to add more sex into the film. And she says to Justin Baldoni, well, this feels pornographic. So Justin, being a classic neurodivergent oversharer, as I've mentioned before, as we've seen before, says he was previously addicted to porn, so he understood it very well. And the scenes were not, in fact, pornographic, but instead they were told through female gaze, because this is what women wanted to see, that women often see, that women want to see themselves being pleasured on camera. So some of that, the little sentence that he said there, even if she's telling 100% the truth, it's just like a classic awkward overshare, maybe, at best. That's not something that every average Joe would probably volunteer in a conversation. Like, by the way, I was previously addicted to porn, so I know that this is not porn. Because she's exaggerating and saying it's porn. But like, could you say that's an overshare? Yeah, you could. Is it sexual harassment? Absolutely fucking not. And it's also not malicious, not nefarious, not designed to make you uncomfortable. It's, dude, Jesus. Somebody says here, and I'm going to agree with that, it's all unprofessional, not sexual harassment. And I kind of, to an extent, I want to agree, because what we understand and what I understand as professional is very different from what your experience would be on the set of a film that has a lot of sex in it. So obviously, like, there's going to be huge, massive differences between what would be acceptable in a regular professional setting and what was acceptable to them. And you could say, like I just said, that was an overshare. Maybe you could feel a little weird about that, but like, that's not sexual harassment. So this kind of thing is what she's twisting into saying he created a hostile work environment. Okay. Even though, as we've seen today, the text messages she sent to him would say things that were like casually sexual or flirty, and being like, well, Blake literally said to him, I'm a boner. You know what I mean? Like, so she can use sexy or sexual words or whatever in casual conversation with him, but when he does it, it's like, You're a harasser. You're a predator. Lick cookie dough off my spoon. You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And I remember this as well, Glorilla. He said in his deposition he was never clinically addicted to porn. I agree. I remember that. So, okay. All right. So, he asked if me and my husband and I do the same. So, in Justin's deposition of this, same question, he says they were talking about this moment where the woman climaxes and the man doesn't. And Blake says, "Oh, I would be mortified if that happened." And that's how that conversation got started. Blake says the characters were climaxing at the same time, and Justin said he and his wife do it at the same time, and asked if my husband and I do the same. So it's, again, he said, she said. You guys know where I fall on that side of the equation, because she said something that was falsely accusing me. So I kind of know how I feel about that. I think she falsely accuses people of a lot of stuff. Whether she actually believes it or not, I don't know. But I know that she's not necessarily telling the truth. Whether it's on purpose or not, depends on who you ask. All right. When I said the scenes felt pornographic, he said he shared with me he previously was addicted to porn, blah, blah, blah. There was a scene that he was proposing in which he brings his character, Ryle, brings to the character Lily to orgasm on camera. And I felt like I would be mortified to shoot something like that as at this stage in my life and career, and being the mother of 4 kids. And given that was not in the understanding of the script I came to the film with. So Sony is who you want to raise your grievances with at that point, right? Because Sony, they're the ones who asked, hold on, messages. Okay. So Sony they're the ones who asked for more sex scenes and sexy whatever in the movie. Okay. So she's saying she would be mortified to shoot something like that, blah, blah, blah. But like, he's just trying to give Sony what they want. Okay. He told me those were the parts where, his character brings her to orgasm and he doesn't orgasm. So she's saying, I felt like I would be mortified to shoot something like that at this stage of my life and career, and being the mother of 4 kids. And given that was not in the understanding of the script that I came into the film with. And to be honest, what I just read, it sounds that like there's a little bit of shame there. Like having that much of a visceral reaction to that, like the woman climaxing and the guy not, or even just the woman climaxing, as she describes it, like the character Lily to orgasm on camera. She's not actually having an orgasm. As we know, she's a professional actress. She's supposed to act these things out. I felt I would be mortified to shoot something like that. Being the mother of 4 kids. And so she says being the mother of 4 kids as if that's supposed to be some sort of acceptable reason at this point, knowing damn well that she had 3 kids before she had this 4th kid, and she was still doing all kinds of crazy sex scenes and shit in other shows and movies, which, not to slut shame, I'm just saying, if you're going to be morally indignant about shooting sex scenes, be consistent. Don't be like, well, I've had 4 kids now. That's the cap. I have to be, a little more reserved. You know what I mean? Like, no. Because when you had 3 kids, you were grabbing a guy's balls in a movie, unscripted, right? You were having all kinds of sex scenes and way more simulated nudity than you were in this film. So, like, be consistent. That's my problem with that. If you don't want to do that kind of shit, fine. Don't do it. But, like, don't later pretend to be morally indignant. You know what I mean? He told me that those were some of his most precious memories, and I don't remember the exact words he used, but between him and his wife, when he would bring her to orgasm, and she would ask to then, I guess, do what needed to happen for him, and he would say, no, that's enough. That was, okay. Brian says, so this was in connection with the creation of a scene. Blake says, was what? What do you mean, was what? In connection with the creation of a scene? Brian says, this discussion about how the sex scene should go. Was he discussing with you why he felt the sex scene should go one way versus another? Blake says he was using personal experiences and descriptives in a conversation that my intention was to discuss the gratuitous sex that I felt it was added, but I felt it was gratuitous that had been added to the script. So, oh my God. Let me finish the paragraph, and then I'll go off my soapbox. And my intention was to have a creative discussion about the sex scenes, and they made a surprising and really disturbing departure into personal conversations. So she feels these are gratuitous sex scenes. And to me, this says a lot about her vision, her personal vision of sex. And so Sony is asking for a higher rated movie with more sex in it, right? And so he's trying to deliver. And he adds these kind of sex scenes where there are like pretend orgasms and stuff in it, which she's supposed to do as the actress. And she's calling it gratuitous that a woman on screen should orgasm. That's gratuitous. To me, that's like a very unfortunate representation of like how she feels about herself and how sex should be. I don't know like what else to say about that other than the woman orgasming is not a gratuitous sex scene. How is that gratuitous? Like a female having an orgasm, that's you want to do that during sex, right? Like I shouldn't have to explain this to people, but like if the woman didn't climax during sex, I would have a problem. You know what I mean? On both sides. Both sides of that equation would have a problem. So that's a thing that's supposed to happen. And showing it in a movie that's very female-centered and about domestic violence and female themes that are like female empowering, showing a woman orgasming, fake orgasming as the actress she is, she's not actually having to have sex with the man, mind you. How is that like gratuitous and inappropriate? I'm sorry, but it's a very sad reflection on her own feelings about sex and relationships, in my opinion. So I really don't know what else to say to that. What's is so gratuitous for women to have pleasure? Okay, exactly. Like, dude. And if she hadn't pissed me off so much and come after me and several other women for simply saying that she's wrong online, maybe I use some colorful language and shit like that, but like, then I might feel bad for her right now. I might feel sad for her. I might say, this is honestly, I understand where these feelings come from because I've been there at that point in my life, some point in my life, right? A lot of us have, as women, felt that way about sex and female orgasms and stuff like that. And like, that's a very adult conversation to have, but she turned the adult conversation into, he's harassing me. He's harassing me. You know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ. That's so crazy. Lottie says it's not that rare. It depends on who you ask, Lottie, because if you ask a lot of men, they'll say it's rare. I'm just saying, if you ask a lot of men, they'll say it's rare. Not every man. I'm not even saying most men. I'm just saying a lot of men. If you ask a lot of men, they'll say it's rare. So therefore, their wives and girlfriends will also say it's rare. So, like, that's where I'm getting that from. Should it be rare? No. It's clearly very possible, but, like, that's unfortunately how it goes. That's because the thing is, we don't see films like this where the female orgasm is such a thing and, like, it's focused on or shown that way. We don't see films like that, probably because there's outrage like this in the background, right? And so it does seem rare to a lot of people. So I will put it that way. Is it rare in general? Well, I'm a lesbian, so no, Lottie, it's not rare. Okay. But you know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. All right. Okay. That was almost probably as bad as a simulated nudity, but whatever. Okay. All right. So this discussion about how the sex scene should go, was he discussing with you why he felt the sex scene should go one way or another? Blake says he was using personal experiences and descriptives in conversation, that my intention was to discuss the gratuitous sex that I felt had. It was added, but I felt it was gratuitous that had been added to the script. Oh, okay, whatever. We read that part already. Where did that meeting take place? At my office. Okay. And then it skips ahead some pages here. I don't know what the conversation here is starting at yet. The top of the page says, shutting down the conversation, that's how I told him to stop. The lawyer says, so the actual words you used was saying, I've never seen it. Is that right? Blake says, oh, I see now. Okay. They're talking about the porn thing again. Well, his attempt was to explain pornography and what that was and how what I felt to be pornographic wasn't in fact pornographic, and that he was expressing his expertise on it given his previous addiction. And in an effort to no longer be talking about pornography, because I was never trying to talk about pornography, I said the scenes felt pornographic. Okay. And I wasn't opening a door to discuss pornography or anyone's past with it. I attempted to shut it down and change the subject. So here's how I feel about that. And like I said before, Justin is a neurodivergent man who sometimes overshares, doesn't pick up on things the way that normal people would. And I have been there enough. Not in this exact situation. I've never had a pornography addiction or thought I had a pornography addiction, right? But she's talking about this, saying she's concerned because it feels pornographic. So his way, with his condition and who he is, he does his best to relate on a personal level out of love and care, right? And try to explain himself the best that he can. And he says, you know, from my experience, because I've had an issue with this where I've seen a lot of pornography, that's not how this goes. So, like, it wasn't intended as sexual harassment. And personally, I believe that intention means a lot, especially if it's like one time somebody said something uncomfortable. And the thing with people who don't pick up on cues like that and who think that they should be open with these things to try to communicate and level with people is like, you have to tell them. Like, people have to tell me, like, oh, that's not normal. I don't want to talk about that. Like, because there's a certain way that your brain is wired where it's like you don't pick up on things in the way a normal person would. And it's very kind of like almost ableist to criticize him for not picking up on things when he very much is in tune with people's emotions and feelings and constantly trying to make sure everybody feels comfortable. And she's saying, oh no, you're safe here. It's fine. I'm comfortable. And she's so happy. You know what? Like, these people are telling him all these positive things. And he's like, well, then what the hell when they start saying negative things? Because it doesn't make sense. Right. So he shares, they don't tell him it's uncomfortable. He doesn't get it. And then the conflict at the end leads to federal court. Right. So it's just kind of ridiculous to me, if you ask me. Give me 1 second here, guys. Just Peachy says, catching my first live late, but I wanted to say hey before I start from the beginning. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you stopping in. Awesome. Okay. All right. So, where are we at here? The actual words you used was saying, I've never seen it. Is that right? She says, well, his attempt was to explain pornography, blah, blah, blah. And in an effort to no longer be talking about pornography, I said the scenes felt pornographic and I wasn't opening a door to discuss pornography or anyone's past with it. Okay. So, in conclusion, from my little rant before, you can be both somebody who overshares and is well-meaning and somebody who feels uncomfortable when certain topics are brought up, and you can coexist by communicating and saying, hey, I didn't mean anything bad by that. And also, hey, I didn't like the way that you said that. I feel like that topic is uncomfortable for me. Have adult communication. It stops. You move on. You don't file a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Okay? All right. Brian Friedman says, and did you ever tell Justin, don't talk about pornography to me anymore? Blake says, that's what I felt like I expressed. Okay. And Brian says, and you expressed that by using the words, I've never seen it? Blake says, I said I've never seen pornography. I don't know anything about it. Guys, are we still reading fiction? I'm really confused. Because there ain't no fucking way. This lady has never seen pornography. Do not even try to tell me that. Oh my God. Okay. Anyways. All right. Oh, prior to saying that to Justin, had you, and then it cuts off, the page cuts off, right? Okay, sorry. Are you claiming that as a part of your lawsuit, that it was sexual harassment that either Justin or Jamie disclosed to the cast and crew, that you never looked at pornography? Okay. So I guess she's saying that Justin or Jamie disclosed to the cast and crew that Blake had never seen porn. Okay. Blake says, I felt upset and disturbed and exposed that an effort at deflecting something that he had said that felt like it had crossed the line. Word salad. Holy shit. I felt upset and disturbed and exposed that an effort at deflecting something he had said that felt like it had crossed the line. Instead of him taking that and not doing it anymore, that he took that and used it in front of other crew members in the workplace. And of course, we can't see her whole deposition because she said no to that. So I have no idea what the context of this was before it. Personally, out of context, I would say I would probably not disclose that to cast and crew. I would not disclose that in front of other people, but being that it's Blake Lively and Blake Lively tends to exaggerate or outright make things up, I have a hard time believing that this actually happened the way she said it did. If it happened the way she said it did, and he actually disclosed that like tidbit about her pornography or never watching it or something to other cast and crew, like I would feel like that was a little weird, yeah, but like maybe not intentionally sexually harassing. I don't know. I really need to know the context here, and I can't because Blake doesn't want her whole deposition out there. So, let's see. Brian says, and is this just Justin or Jamie also? Blake says, Jamie was always around Justin. They were a pair. So my memory of them together on set, that was them together. Okay. Do you actually overhear Justin or Jamie tell crew members or cast members that you never looked at pornography? Blake says, yes, I remember hearing that. Okay. You heard it from them directly. Blake says, I remember hearing that from Justin. Yes. And Justin said that in front of you. Yes. Okay. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what she's claiming. And who did he tell? Blake says, I don't remember. Wait, that's convenient. I don't remember who he told. Okay. I remember him speaking about pornography in a casual way, and he said, oh, Blake doesn't know anything about it. She's never seen it. Okay, honestly, again, that sentence right there, like, that's not what I was expecting when I read that she was saying he harassed her or whatever. Like, that's not what I was expecting at all. Blake doesn't know anything about it. She's never seen it. How is that sexually harassing? If anything, it's the opposite. It's sexually unharassing, being like, leave Blake alone. She doesn't know anything about porn. She's never seen it. Leave her alone. Don't bother her about sex stuff. Like, what are you talking about? Okay. When was this? What date? She said, I don't remember what date. Do you remember the month? It would have been in May 2023. Did you bring this up with Angie? She says, I don't remember if I made it to that. Did you bring it up with anybody at Sony? Eventually, yes. Okay, May or June, did you bring it up to them? No, I don't know if I made it to that. Like I said, Angie shut me down quickly, telling me I couldn't file an HR claim through Sony. Okay, hold on. So this right here, Sony came out on the docket a couple weeks ago saying Blake Lively was basically full of shit and trying to harass one of their employees with what she was doing, and that her expert report was based on stuff that was clearly misrepresented. So Blake Lively here saying Angie shut me down, telling me I couldn't file HR through her, is like probably not a full representation of the facts, I'm going to say. Who was there when Justin was saying that you had never seen pornography? Who in the cast or crew was present for that? Blake says, I don't remember specifically. I remember the feeling. I remember the feeling more than I remember the specifics. Oh, okay. Wow. Now we skip ahead a bunch of pages. It says, can you be more specific? Blake says, sure. Did Leslie Sloan call you and tell you that she received information from Stephanie Jones about a smear campaign or something similar to that? Blake says she did not. Brian says, did you learn from Leslie Sloan that there were texts on Jen's phone? No. Who did you learn that from? Ashley Avignon. I think it's Avignon. I'm not sure. But Ashley Avignon is associated with Stephanie Jones, works for her or something like that. Blake says she's a friend of mine. So Ashley is a mutual friend between her and Stephanie. Stephanie reaches out to Ashley and says, tell Blake, I have all this stuff from Jennifer Abel's phone and I need to get it to her. And then Blake, accepts, obviously. And then not too long after, Blake uses her shell company to file a lawsuit against John Doe's 1 through 10, even though she knows she wants Jen Abel's cell phone from Stephanie Jones. There's nothing John Doe about it. There's nothing unknown about it. No investigation. She sends that subpoena right to Stephanie Jones because she knows exactly where the jackpot is, and she gets all those text messages improperly, and it's fucked up. And Taylor Swift apparently knew about it from what we saw earlier. So, all right. She said that a woman she knows named Stephanie Jones was trying to get in touch with me. She gave me more details. So Stephanie Jones betrays her clients or recent former clients, Wayfarer Studios, who she's still expecting to pay her fees, and tells Blake Lively, come get this phone, girl. Okay. She told her that on the phone. Of course, on the phone, it's a phone call. We can't verify it in text, right? And what else did she tell you? Blake says, she told me that she works with a woman in, and then of course it cuts off. So I don't know, right? Okay. Right. Moving to another subject. Alex Sachs, she said yes. Why didn't anyone let me know? They're talking about COVID protocols, and I don't know the context here, so it's hard to gather too much from that. So she's basically trying to blame them for her and her baby getting COVID or whatever. I don't know if the baby actually got COVID, but she did. Or she was out because of COVID. I don't know if she actually had it or not. Blake says she was the only person who couldn't wear a mask. And if I knew people were sick per SAG, I could ask for people to test when they arrive at work. So there were tests. And Blake Lively even refused home tests when Wayfair often offered to send them to her home. Okay. Just for the time period where there's an outbreak, I could ask others in close proximity wear a mask. It's not something I would have exercised usually because if there wasn't an outbreak, because I wouldn't want to put an additional burden on the budget and then it cuts off. But like the COVID thing, there's plenty of evidence that shows like she said she was sick with COVID and then she was off doing something else, right? They tried to send a home test for her and all that stuff. They sent out emails warning the cast and crew. They followed protocol and she just like she wasn't on board with that for some reason. Let's see. Okay. Brian Friedman is saying, on the June 1st meeting, did you expressly tell Mr. Baldoni and Heath that there was serious HR problems on the set? Blake says, I don't know what words I used because I wasn't planning on addressing the HR issues with them directly in my trailer with Alex Sachs in that moment. But I did express real concern for the things that had occurred thus far, including Jamie entering my trailer when I was naked from the waist up. Okay. So when Jamie showed you the video of the birthing scene, the after birthing scene, are you familiar with that? Blake says, that's not what I said. No. Brian says, do you recall Jamie showing you a still image on his iPhone? Blake says, I recall a moving image. Okay. So it cuts off there. So I'm not sure. Wayfair didn't include. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. It goes from next to the page. Never mind. I recall a moving image. Brian says, did you watch the movie? Blake says, movie? I wouldn't characterize it as a movie. No. Brian says, well, did you just say movie image? Blake says, moving image. Okay, so that was a misunderstanding. But, moving image. I apologize. Did you watch the moving image? Blake says, as soon as I saw that it was a naked woman fully exposed, I asked him to stop. Brian says, was there a birthing scene during the production of It Ends With Us? Blake says, we had already shot the birthing scene when he showed me that video. Hold on. That's the first time we're ever hearing that, right? So I'm supposed to believe that now. And did he tell you why he was showing you the video? Blake says, no. Brian says, and he just showed it to you without explaining anything about it? Blake says, yes. And you just looked at it, and how long did you look at it for? Blake says, very briefly. Brian says, very briefly, meaning 2 minutes, a minute. Blake says, I stopped it as soon as I saw there was a naked woman he was showing me. So naked, in Blake's opinion, means underpants are on. Like you're covered, your body parts are covered, apparently, from what we saw in the very beginning of the stream, where she says she was naked with a strip over her private parts, where it was actually like she had underpants on. Like, okay. So just keep that in mind, right? I stopped it as soon as I saw there was a naked woman he was showing me because I didn't know what it was. There was no context. He did not ask if I wanted to see it. He did not ask for my consent. I asked if he told me it was his wife giving birth. I asked if she had given consent to share it with me. And what did he say? Blake says, she wasn't there. Brian says, what did he say she said? Blake says, she's not weird about that kind of stuff. Okay. Did he tell you why he was showing it to you? No. You had no idea whatsoever why he was showing it to you. Blake says, no, there was no reason to show me that day. We were shooting in a Boston bar. Okay. Brian says during the June 1st meeting that there were just talking about attended by yourself, Jamie, Justin, and Alex Sachs. During that meeting, did you call the actions by Justin Baldoni sexual harassment? Blake says, what actions? Brian says, the actions you raised at the meeting. Blake says, I don't believe he would have said to a man, it's not his fault, it's mine. I thought you wanted to see it without acknowledgement or apology or reparations or no, I do feel that I was treated differently. How does that answer the question, did you describe Justin Baldoni's actions sexual harassment? And her answer is, I don't believe he would have said to a man, it's not his fault, it's mine. I thought you wanted to see it. I mean, what? Brian says, yeah, I want to know what you said at the meeting. So I'm asking, during that meeting, did you call the actions sexual harassment? Blake says, which actions? Again, Brian says, any actions that he had that you had raised at the June 1st meeting. Blake says, I remember discussing the video Jamie showed me. I remember discussing Jamie entering my trailer. I don't know if I told him this or if this is another thing that Angie shared, but how bad it felt for him to tell me personally that I felt sex, that I looked sexy, and that I looked hot, and that I was also disturbed by the way I understood Jenny to be feeling and experiences I'd seen with her. I'm sorry. There was no answer to that question. The question was, did you call the actions by Justin Baldoni sexual harassment at that meeting? The answer was, I discussed the video Jamie showed me. I discussed him entering my trailer. I don't know if I told him this or if this is another thing Angie shared, but how bad it felt for him to tell me that I felt I looked sexy or that I looked hot. That wasn't the question. Brian says, during the meeting, did you call the action sexual harassment? Did you use that term? Blake says, I remember using the word HR claims. Brian says, HR what? She says, claims. Okay. Claims. During the meeting on June 1st, did you call the actions by Jamie sexual harassment? She says, I think the actions I'm describing are pretty obviously sexual harassment. What? Making eye contact with you during a conversation? I mean, come on, dude. I think the actions that I'm describing are pretty obvious sexual harassment. Brian says, I'm asking you whether you actually called them at that meeting that was attended by these people. Blake says, like I said, I don't remember what words were used because I never intended to talk to them about it. Okay, I never intended to talk to them about it, yet you went to your lawyer to have a list of demands drawn up, including this stuff. What do you mean you never intended to talk to them about it? Okay. I intended to formally, and then it cuts off. Okay. Let's see. So here Blake's talking. I don't know what the prompting was, but because the page just starts here, but it says, I would do a Colleen Hoover film because the narrative or the sentiment was that this book romanticized and sexualized, more specifically, not romanticized, but sexualized domestic violence. Okay. So I guess this is what like either the press or the online sentiment was towards her at this time. So, Brian says, does negative press bother you? Blake says, I'm used to it after this many years in the industry, but it's not something I've had to deal with often. Blake, you don't deal with it well. I can tell you that much. So, well, I mean, it's true that you dealt with negative press with respect to being married on a plantation. Okay, sorry. 1 second. I need a sip of water before this. Okay. Anyways. One more time. Okay. Well, this is Brian Friedman again asking the questions. Well, I mean, it's true that you dealt with negative press with respect to being married on a plantation during the height of Black Lives Matter. Is that right? Oh, Brian. Oh, boy. She says, it's true I dealt with negative press during that. I was not married then. Wait, what? During the height of Black Lives Matter? You were married. You had been married on that plantation. What the fuck do you mean? And I feel like that negative press was deserved. It's a mistake we have publicly acknowledged and done a lot of work to reconcile for ourselves and others, aka we wrote a big fat check to the NAACP, and therefore they gave us a recommendation to be on the Times 100 for something we did years ago. Okay. Okay. And just to be clear, you're not alleging that anything related to the plantation wedding is part of the smear campaign. Is that correct? She says, no. But that was a lot of the press at the time. The negative press was around her actual actions. So, okay, so skip some pages here. Okay. Let's see. They're talking about when and where the filming happened. I'm going to skim over that. And then we get down to 274. It says, when Mr. Friedman allegedly made these defamatory comments on behalf of Mr. Wallace, did he make them prior to the lawsuit, to that lawsuit which has now been dismissed, being sent to New York? Ezra Hudson says, "Objection!" And then the attorney says, "How about that?" Blake says, "My understanding," and I guess maybe Ellen or someone else is questioning her at this point. It says, "My understanding is that Mr. Friedman's harmful statements started as soon as the first case started," which would be mine. So December of 2024. The lawyer says, "Okay, the premiere of It Ends With Us was on August 6th of 2024. Is that right?" Blake says, "Sounds correct." Okay. And then let me make sure it goes to the next page. Yeah. Okay. If you go to the fourth page, next to the last page, it says Tuesday, August 6th. It Ends With Us premiere, location AMC Lincoln Square. Does that refresh your recollection? She says, "Sorry, I wasn't there yet." Okay, they're looking at exhibits. Film's release was August 9th. That's my dad's birthday. She says, "In the United States, yes." Okay, nobody cares about this shit. It's just like dates and logistics. And that's it. That's all her deposition that we get to see, unfortunately. There's other depositions in here that we can see, but I'm not going to go over all the depositions tonight. I want to see if there's anything else that we want to actually like look at. Lauren, it's beyond freezing in New York City. I know, dude. So I didn't have time to actually go buy a coat tonight. I wanted to, but I had to work right before the stream. And I really wanted to get this stuff tonight. So I have a parka, an old swim parka that I'm going to use when I fly in. And I want to put that on at the airport. And then when I get to the hotel, put everything down. I'm going to go buy a coat. There's a Macy's out there that I'm going to go look at. And I'll like buy a coat. Because I have some old boots I found. Yeah, so that'll probably work. I'll just have to go shopping tomorrow in New York. So hopefully it won't be too bad. But I should be able to find a good coat. We'll see. Anyways, let's keep looking at this stuff because there's thousands and thousands of pages of evidence to go through. And I'm not going to get through all of it tonight, but I will get through a good portion of it. So let's look at this. Okay, actually, you know what we could do? And this is the only subreddit related to this case that I'll really look at. Is the Team JB one. Okay. I very, very rarely will poke on the It Ends With Lawsuits one. At some point, the It Ends With Lawsuits subreddit turned into like an ad hominem, like crazy war zone. And it's better now. It is better now. I will say that. But I had to stop looking at it just in case because there's a lot going on there. So let's see. What do we got here? So there's stuff that's been coming up here all day when other people could see it. Birth scene video was released. You could see the underwear that she was wearing, so she was not nude. Okay, I love Brit. She's awesome. If you guys don't know Brit, go give her a shout. She's great. I love Nag. I love not actually Golden is Nag. I love Little Girl Attorney. She's pretty cool. I actually got to meet Little Girl Attorney in person at Donna Bowling's show out in California. That was fun. And also Katie Pope. They were cool. I really liked both of them. Let's see. Oh no, the tides really are turning about Blake and her bestie Taylor Swift. Okay. Let's see. In August 2024, Liz Plank test bait and switch flirting for political canvassing. I don't know if I want to read that one right now. Candace was right about Taylor. I don't need to read that right now. Okay. I don't really need to look at this stuff right now. Actually, you know what we could do? There's a lot of really good stuff, hilarious stuff, actually, in that 56.1 statement. So here's what I'll do with you guys. We'll go through that, the highlighted parts. So we'll just look at the parts that were sealed before, because I think we reasonably get through that tonight, and then we'll do the rest of the stuff tomorrow. I'll probably stream tomorrow at 3 or 3:30 p.m. Eastern in New York. So let me look at this, though, first. Let's see, 1236, blah, blah. Got all that. I'm looking for her statement. Hang on. The 56.1. Hang on, let me do this. 56.1. There we go. This is the one that she put out earlier, right? Yes. Okay. So we'll go from the top, and we'll just read the highlighted parts. So we'll get to the bottom. Okay. Let me move my head here so you guys can see it. But there's some funny fucking stuff here from Sony. Lauren, check your Reddit DM messages. I don't check my DM messages. What is it? I don't check my Reddit DM messages because it's always someone saying, I saw something about you that I thought you should see. And I'm like, guys, if people are saying shit about me on Reddit, don't show me. I'm better off just not knowing because everything they say is bullshit. So who fucking cares? Yeah, I'm not going to look at that right now. I don't have any new messages, I don't think, or I do. I have like 400, but like I don't have more than I had before. You know what I mean? So, all right. Okay. Anyways, let's go ahead and read through the highlighted portions of this, which is gonna. Woof. Okay. Anyways, let's see. Right. So the numbered paragraphs here are Justin Baldoni's statements of fact, and the other parts, the responses, plaintiff's response, that's Blake Lively's response to those portions. So here it says, in September 2022, Wayfair proposed a partnership with Sony and co-financing the film. Wayfair's proposal included a requirement that 1% of the film proceeds be donated. Okay. That was apparently redacted before. I don't know why. Okay. So I'm going to skim over some of this stuff that's just like not that important. Like Wayfair proposed a partnership with Sony to co-produce the film. Like I don't need to read through that. So I'm going to do a little bit of skimming, but we'll put it that way. In early publicity planning for the film, Sony emphasized the need to center the underlying message of the story. Abusive relationships take many forms from all social classes. What does it take to leave and break the cycle of generational trauma and domestic violence? We need to be careful not to commercialize or handle lightly. So, oh my God, sorry, my phone fell. But oh my God, so she's saying to all of the cast, we saw in Isabella Ferrer's deposition earlier, she's saying that the people in charge of marketing were saying, don't talk about domestic violence. But what they were actually saying is, don't make it like creepy monetization of tragedy. Like talk about it, yes. What does it take to break the cycle? But don't like commercialize it in a way that's like, oh my God, you guys are like freaks who just want money and don't care about anything else. It's very clear here from saying that. Okay, from seeing that. All right. Undisputed that Sony's early publicity strategy aimed to provide context for the underlying messaging of abuse, but disputed that breaking the cycle of abuse was primary or sole theme. So she's disputing that. Also disputed that Sony's publicity planning for the film avoided commercializing its themes. The publicity plan included screenings on a rooftop, events at a venue made to look like a floral shop, okay, blah, 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 temporary heart tattoos, partner with Pinterest, and incorporate onesies into the campaign. Look, listen, none of this stuff is inherently bad. Like this stuff that Sony had come up with. Honestly, none of this stuff, even the onesies and shit like that, is not bad. The problem is they were not handling the domestic violence part with care. They were not handling the domestic violence message from the film with any sort of seriousness. And you could tell from when Blake Lively was responding to interviewer questions, they would say, what would you say to someone who's like trying to reach out, who's had struggles with this? And she was like, you want me to location share with them? Like, what do you want from me? Like, it was her responses and her actions that caused the problems. It wasn't Sony's strategy or their intention. Literally, she did this to herself. And we're going to see down towards the bottom of this document, Sony basically says Blake Lively is a fucking idiot. And they actually use the word idiot or stupid at some point. They say like remarkably stupid or something. So let's keep skimming through here. Let's see. Vibrations. We're going to skim through that one. Okay. Okay, we're talking about financial management, so I'm going to skim over that. We'll do that shit later. Okay. Skim that. Okay. Skim over that. Okay. 20. Blake Lively never read the book, either before or during filming. And the plaintiff's response, Blake Lively's response, is disputed. Lively informed Baldoni that when she's a part of book-to-film adaptations, what works better for her is to not read the book in advance because it becomes harder to see the blind spots in the film, and that she likes to look at the film, as its own piece to make sure it works on its own. Lively nevertheless read several portions of the book after April 2023. Wait. So, no part of Blake Lively's response to accusation number 20 is, I read the book. It's like, oh, I read several portions of the book after April 2023. Girl, stop. That's awesome. She should have to take a pop quiz or something. That's amazing. All right, anyways. Oh boy. Okay. So, number 28. Before accepting the role, Lively had reviewed an early script and thus knew the film would include sexual content and dark themes, including domestic violence. Lively says undisputed that Lively had read a script of the film prior to accepting the role and understood the film to involve romance, drama, trauma, and levity. So, and then they quote her here, and it says, but yeah, I knew there was romance, I knew there was drama, I knew there was trauma, I knew there was levity, I knew there was many facets in this story. Okay. Disputed that the script Lively reviewed includes scenes of sexual intimacy. So they're basically saying, oh, Lively didn't know that this movie was going to have any sex in it. Girl, at any point in time before the filming started, Lively just, she didn't know. She didn't know that there was going to be any sex in this movie about sex and violence. Like, what the fuck? Sorry. Like, this is fucking nutty. This is nutbags. Oh my god. So he says, I just found Lauren today. She's hilarious. Well, I'm glad you think so. And welcome to all my newcomers. I apologize for my accents. Kind of. But not really, because I'm still here. All right. So, Lively worked, so this is 29. Lively worked to revise the script before filming began. Her written work product included frank sexual language and overtly sexual themes. For instance, in April 2023, Lively sent Baldoni a revised draft for the scene in which Lively's character, Lily Bloom, and Baldoni's character, Ryle Kincaid, first meet on a rooftop of a building. Lively explained she revised the scene to include flirty and yummy ball busting. She referred to her choice of dialogue as my love language, spicy and playfully bold, never with teeth. What? I'm sorry, never with teeth. Like, what does that even mean? Her draft called for sexual tension between the characters, kissing, and retained a line from the book in which Baldoni's character says directly to Lively's character, I want to fuck you. So, yeah. Then they literally did, Ryan and Blake, when they rewrote that rooftop scene, literally kept in the line that says, I want to have sex with you. I want to fuck you, or whatever it was. And I remember that because I was like, a straight man has to have written this scene. But actually, Colleen Hoover wrote it that way. So, like, holy crap. They both suck. All right, anyways. Never with teeth. This is a grandma, not with teeth. Never with teeth. Okay, whatever. All right. I'm so tired of reading that text message. I swear to God. Anyways. Okay, let's get to 30. On May 5th, Baldoni sent Lively some notes from Sony executive Angie Giannetti, who wanted the scenes to involve more than just verbal interplay. Giannetti wrote, and this is Sony. Giannetti is for Sony, by the way. Other than language, this does not read like an R-rated movie. Readers of the book are expecting some heat. I'm hoping the love scenes are sexy and grown up. Please work to find the balance between sweet/funny/endearing with moments of real heat. So, like, Sony was pressuring them to do more, like, sexy stuff. Because it was too PG for them, right? Okay. Let's see. And I'm only reading the highlighted parts that were previously redacted, guys. So keep that in mind. I'm not reading the whole document tonight. Let's see. And they're talking about Lively having substantial influence over development and shooting. It says Lively emailed to PGA asserting, I led the location shift from Boston to New Jersey. Oh my God. Right. So there's some highlighted stuff here about the negotiations between Wayfarer and Lively's agent, Warren Zavala, who made it clear that Wayfarer could say no and proceed with another actress. Right, but they're saying, if you want me, you have to move the filming from Boston to New Jersey. And they did want her for the role in the film before they knew all this shit was going to happen. So, like, of course, they're saying you can say no and just go with another actress, right? But, like, they're saying if you want Blake Lively, this is what you're going to do, right? Okay. 32, in a letter to the Producers Guild of America, Lively stated that she played a role in numerous aspects of the film pre-production as follows. I led the look, and this is Blake Lively's words to the Producers Guild of America when she's trying to get her PGA mark. She says, I led the location shift from Boston to New Jersey and helped to solve all cost and schedule logistics associated. When she just demanded they move the filming if they wanted her on the project. Like, what the fuck? I personally called and or wrote emails to crew and put forth names for department head roles, including hair and makeup, director of photography, costume design, transportation, security, camera ops, etc. I identified and onboarded freelance team members for the cast members, not just myself, to help achieve the goals for the screen, including a fitness trainer, nutritionist, meal prep service, spray tanner, wig maker, hair colorist, etc. I reviewed and reshaped the creative of the production design for all key locations for all characters, also made changes to use existing elements of locations to save cost. Is that to offset the cost that you blew through the budget for your wardrobe, which was terrible, by the way? Okay. She says, I called in favors with home design contracts to get items loaned, discounted, or gifted. To save production design costs. I reviewed and reshaped the creative of the costume design for all characters. I called in favors with fashion contacts to get items loaned, discounted, or gifted to save costume design costs. I reviewed and reshaped the creative of the prop and floral design for the key film element of the film. The protagonist is a florist. Okay. I did outreach to florists all over Instagram. And you sent Instagram DMs to people? Is that what you're saying? Helping with the marketing activation to feature a florist in the film and connect with the best names with production. I went through hundreds of casting tapes to help find the rest of the cast, including our stars, Atlas, Lively's character, Lily Bloom's other love interest, young Lily, young Atlas, and Jenny Bloom, Lily Bloom's mother. I rewrote the script to improve the role of Jenny Bloom after 3 actresses turned it down. Okay. All right. Wayfarer's number 33 says that Lively asked if the start of shooting could be pushed back because she wanted to be in her best shape. Okay. On February 9th, in response to Baldoni's comment that Lively must feel 1,000 pounds lighter after resolving a personal dilemma, which is a very common phrase. You must feel 1,000 pounds lighter after getting like an emotional weight off your shoulders. Lively responded, only 20 to go. Baldoni disliked Lively's self-deprecating joke. So he put a little thumbs down on her comment there. He put a little thumbs down on the text message she sent him. And she's like, he's fat shaming me. Like, what the fuck? You're fat shaming yourself. And he's like, nah, I don't think that. Let's see. On February 17th, Lively asked Baldoni, what's the chance we can do the body scenes at the end of the schedule? Baldoni responded, I want you to know you will look amazing. Anything you're insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need. That's very fucking polite. Okay? Very polite. The same day, Lively told Warren Zavala, her agent at WME, also, I asked Justin Baldoni today, but I need their help in boarding the movie, so the body stuff last shoot, I'm working my ass off, literally working out twice a day, 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day. She's not fat. At no point in time was this woman fat. Like, Hollywood has fucked women up. Just, like, take all the context of all of this out of it and just, like, listen to what Blake Lively's saying right now. Hollywood has fucked women up to the point they're extremely sensitive to ridiculous standards. But I'm treating it like my full-time job, and no matter how hard I work, it's a lot to accomplish in not a lot of time, and I want to set us all up for success. The sexiness in this film and the marketing, I'm sure, is critical to its success. So I just want to point out there, the sexiness in this film is critical to its success. Her words. So she acts like, oh my God, son of Satan is here. If somebody else says the word fucking sexy, you know what I mean? Like sexy or whatever in regards to an outfit. But she's like, the sexiness has to be there. It's critical to its success to the point that I'm working out 4 hours a day. I'm literally working my ass off. But like, what? A guy's like, oh, the outfit is sexy. And she's like, harass her. I'm calling Taylor Swift. Like, don't tell me to lick a spoon. Whatever. It's just ridiculous. All right. In February 18th, 2023, message to Baldoni, Lively wrote, I know my job here. As woke as we both are and work to be, this movie requires a certain aesthetic. It's part of the job that we both excitedly signed up for. I don't shy away from it because it's not problematic. Okay. 39 says, on April 12th, Lively asked her friend, the world-famous musician Taylor Swift, for help, referring to Baldoni as This doofus director of my movie, she went on to describe him as a clown who thinks he's a writer now. Justin Baldoni, who's written multiple books, thinks he's a writer now. Okay. She asked Swift to endorse the revised script she was proposing even without having read it, saying you don't have to read, of course. And then Lively's response here disputes this, saying, I sent Taylor the script on her way to my apartment because Justin was still there, and I asked her to read them. I told her she didn't have to. I didn't want her to feel pressured to do that, but I hoped that she wouldn't. And here's a lot of the problems some people are having with Taylor Swift. Taylor said she had no idea what she was going to that meeting. She was just going to Blake's apartment to hang out with a friend because a friend asked her over. But actually, Taylor was sent the script on the way to Blake's apartment because Justin was still there. So Taylor Swift, therefore, did actually know what she was walking into. And that's a hard thing to combat. I will say, like, I don't want to, again, I'm exceedingly careful in making judgments. So, but, dude, that's bad. Like, that looks fucking bad. Okay. All right. So, Swift agreed to do Lively's bidding, texting Lively, I'll do anything for you. And then here, Lively and Taylor Swift met with Baldoni at Lively's apartment, where Swift endorsed the revised draft. Afterwards, Lively wrote to Swift, you were so epically heroic today. I recapped every moment to Ryan. I kept remembering stuff, you making shit up about me and lenses, and referring to yourself as my doll. This clown, Justin, falling for all of it, but also resisting it. You were the world's absolute greatest friend ever. And then Blake's response to that statement is disputed that Swift agreed to do Lively's bidding, met with Baldoni, or endorsed the revised draft. Okay. Let's see. Number 41. Baldoni told Lively he liked the revised scene. He added that he would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor. Explained that to protect her like the princess in Game of... Lively explained, to protect her like the princess in Game of Thrones, Reynolds and Swift serve as dragons. We know that one already. All right. Okay. And 43. Testimony from cast confirms these policies were not provided on set, and Heath testified that he did know if cast and crew were provided with Wayfair's policies. I think they mean didn't. So in 43 that they're responding to, it says Wayfair has a set of industry standard policies and procedures in place to prevent harassment, discrimination, retaliation. All Wayfair Studios employees, offer principal agents, workers, and representatives are prohibited from engaging in unlawful discrimination, blah, 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 blah. So they're not disputing that Wayfair has these policies, but they're disputing that Wayfair implies these policies were given to everybody who worked on the film. And so from my understanding, people who work on films like this is not like a typical workplace. So things don't function the way they do in a normal workplace, right? But they were given a call sheet every day that had information on it for if you felt uncomfortable or if you felt you needed to make a report. Here's a number for someone you can call, that kind of thing. And Blake Lively just never made a report. So, okay. Don't think we need to do that one. Let's see. They're still talking about HR stuff. Wayfair has a human resources department headed by Cynthia Barnes Slater. And then they're saying here that defendants imply Wayfair made Slater or any other HR rep available to cast and crew of the film. Heath testified that Wayfair did not have an HR rep specifically for the movie, and he did not recall whether he and Slater discussed her providing support to address cast or crew concerns in connection with the film. Again, like I said, things work a lot differently on these indie films or whatever. Heath said a lot to that effect in his deposition. Heath further testified he deferred human resources issues to Alex Sachs, ultimately, and Jill Seiko, who was our production supervisor, as well as Andrea Ejimian, who was our line producer. That if there was concerns, would go to them were any brought up. Okay. Well, if that's how the film set works, that's how the film set works. Like, I've learned my lesson in trying to judge these things by regular office job standards. Nah. Okay. Let's see. So here on 46, it says Wayfair employees are required to participate in workplace harassment training. And then here, Blake's response says they're not disputing that they're actually, required to participate, but she's disputing that they actually completed the training. Maybe because Justin made that joke about missing the HR meeting, which was clearly a joke. Okay. Cast testimony confirms they were not given any training or instruction regarding harassment policies. Okay, so again, was that like the actresses and the actors who were working day to day on set? Is that something that normally happens on movie sets, on indie movies? Like, do they actually do that on every indie movies? Like, we have to think about the industry that they're working in, because a lot of this stuff is explained by looking at the industry and the circumstance, right? Okay, let's see. That one's not important there. That one's not important there. Wait. Yeah, no, that's not important there. 50 says, on April 5th, Baldoni wrote to Lively, just hired intimacy coordinator who I love. We'll set you up to meet / FaceTime with her next week for intro. Lively declined the introduction, responding, I feel good. I can meet with her when we start. Lively's response to that was undisputed, that the quoted language appears in the cited source. Okay. All right. So let's see. On May 4th, 2024, before any filming had begun and months before any shooting of the film's intimate scenes would take place, the intimacy coordinator considered the content of anticipated scenes and suggested details and clarifications, right? While expressing concerns that the scenes were becoming too PG-13 as compared to the more explicit scenes in the book. So they were saying it needed to be more explicit, not less. Baldoni suggested the intimacy coordinator discuss with Lively whether there were other ways of implying nudity that she would consider so as not to disappoint readers, while also expressing sensitivity for Lively's boundaries. He wrote, I'm fine showing my butt, female gaze. So that's Justin. I'm fine showing my butt, female gaze. I'm fine if Blake just wants to take my clothes off and we make it playful. The goal is to choreograph in a way that keeps Blake's clothes on as much as possible, because that's what Blake wanted. So he's telling the intimacy coordinator we're keeping on clothes as much as she wants. My God. The intimacy coordinator then met with Lively to review said vision and set boundaries for purposes of memorializing them in a nudity writer. On or around May 5th, the intimacy coordinator had a phone call with Lively and her lawyer. The intimacy coordinator explained that her role was to determine Lively's comfort level and boundaries, to ensure scenes would be within her consent and boundaries, and to provide nudity writer language. Okay. She told Lively to contact her if she wanted anything further. Lively did not meet with her again. Okay, give me 1 second here, guys. Woo. I got thirsty. Okay. Plaintiff's response to that, Blake's response to that says, Lively, her counsel, and Talbot, the intimacy coordinator, discussed any scenes that were not scripted to include nudity or any form of intimacy, including the birth scene. So they're just saying, we dispute that to the extent that they discussed any unscripted scenes. Let me read through these before we move on to the next page, guys. Lottie of Wales, thank you for the $20 super sticker. Bewildered, thank you for being a new member. Sally Neely, thank you for being a new member. Salome, thank you for being a new member. I appreciate that. When I'm out in New York, I'll do a members only thing for you guys. I do appreciate that. Timothy Evo, thank you for the $5 for your shoulders. Goddess Sobs, thank you for the 5 because Lauren showed me what simulated nudity is. Thank you very much. Georgie Porgy, thank you for the 10. Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate you. I appreciate you back. Thank you very much. Ricardo Holt, thank you for the $2. Hello, lovelies, and Lauren, and then also Ricardo for the 2. The fact lapdog dismissed JB's case is enraging. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Pandora Fox, thank you for the 5. Say what you want about Amber Heard. At least she had the decency to punch up, not down. Lively, RR, and Swift are rich entitled bullies. Fair enough. I understand. Sydney612, thank you for the $10. Appreciate that. TN House Hustler, thank you for the 5. She has no past at work history that would collaborate that statement. And Elizabeth LeBoy, thank you for the $5 super sticker. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. I just wanted to get through that real quick. Did Lauren get a coat? No. I have a parka that I'm going to be wearing tomorrow, and then I'm going to buy a coat when I get to New York. So, Lauren did not get a coat yet. But I will. Tomorrow, I'm going to go up to the Macy's and I'll get a coat that I can wear. So I hope. Otherwise, I'm wearing a swim parka to the fucking courthouse. Swim parka and a black tee. That's all I got. Anyways, let's move on here. Okay. The same day, the intimacy coordinator provided draft language for the nudity writer to Lively. Lively responded, "This is great. Thank you." Talbot sent Lively's note to the film production for inclusion in the nudity writer. Okay. Plaintiff's response 56. What was this about? 56 was about the harassment training and all that. Lively disputes that the training was offered to or intended for cast or crew, that the training deck and evidence was the one that was provided, or that any cast or crew member was invited or attended. So I don't know about that. It's a he said, she said there. We'll see. Okay. During the first phase of filming, Wayfair distributed a preliminary crew list to the crew that listed Wayfair's HR contact, Cynthia Barnes-Slater. So they told everybody, apparently, they told everybody who Cynthia Barnes-Slater was, that she was the HR contact. Okay. Plaintiff's response, Blake Lively's response says, undisputed that a preliminary crew list existed and listed Wayfair's HR representative. Okay. But then they say here, Heath testified that Wayfair did not have an HR representative specifically for the movie, and he did not recall whether he and Slater discussed her providing support to address cast or crew concerns in connection with the film. Well, if he passed that off to someone else, why would he have knowledge of that, right? And I don't know how these indie film sets work inside and out the way other people do, so I couldn't tell you how normal that is or not. I will reserve judgment on that point, that specific point. How about that? Okay. Right. So apparently there were texts that show Lively received the call sheets with the hotline number for workplace complaints, including sexual harassment, that directed them to a third-party organization to assist with any complaints. Okay. So they're saying Heath testified he did not know whether the hotline could be used to report sexual harassment as opposed to physical safety concerns. Lady, if you don't call the number and try to make your concern, or like report your concern, how the fuck would you know either? Like that's... Multiple cast members also testified they were not aware of any harassment hotline. That's their fault for not reading the fucking call sheet. If you can't read the materials that accompany you doing your job that's handed out to you every fucking day, that is not anyone else's problem but your own. I'm sorry. Okay. Also, none of these people were trying to make complaints. They're just asking, did you know you could call this number to make a complaint? There's no people who are saying, I want to make a complaint. I just want to point that out. Okay. Let's see. Okay. 61. None of Lively's sexually explicit scenes or scenes involving simulated nudity were rehearsed or filmed during this initial period. There's a message from NGG and Neidigh that says all the romantic/sex scenes and abuse still need to be shot. Okay. So that was the first period of filming, I guess. So they're trying to dispute that, saying the birth scene again was simulated nudity, which I think simulated nudity is probably the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. Especially when you're using a prosthetic stomach. It's not a real fucking stomach. It's not even your body part. It's fake. Right? Footage of the birthing scene shows Lively covered with a hospital gown and a prosthetic pregnancy belly. Lively disputes that as incomplete and misleading. While certain footage shows Lively wearing a hospital gown and prosthetic belly, production blocked and filmed the scene over several hours using multiple framings and angles, as they do when filming scenes, including angles that depicted Lively's side profile fully nude from the chest down. So, like, she wasn't actually nude, but the side profile appeared as if she was nude. So it's simulated nudity, which is like the dumbest fucking thing to get upset about. I'm sorry. To obtain those shots, the hospital gown was positioned only to cover her breasts with an exposed prosthetic belly. It's a fake stomach and a small thin piece of flat black fabric covering her genital area. Those are your underpants. Again, you're wearing your underpants. During filming, Lively laid on her back with her legs placed in stirrups, while a male actor, whom she later learned was a personal friend of Baldoni, stood positioned between her legs for the scene. Baldoni's friend, right, is a Shakespearean-trained actor with, like, very appropriate education and career credentials to have taken that role. So the fact that she's complaining about that being Baldoni's friend is akin to Baldoni complaining that Lively's sister was on the set. Let's see. Elizabeth Talbot, the intimacy coordinator for the first phase of filming, testified that, pursuant to SAG industry standards, nudity of the type that requires a writer is defined as anything that would be seen underneath a bikini. So she tried to say, in what we saw in the beginning of this stream, that they did something wrong with the nudity and they didn't do a nudity writer for something like that, when she actually was covered to the extent that it would not be considered nudity nudity in the industry, right? Nudity writers are not typical for implied nudity where the actor is not physically nude, but is portrayed as such. So she's not actually fucking nude. Oh my God, this is so dumb that we even listen to this shit. Okay. The birthing scene, this is Lively's response. The birthing scene involved only implied nudity or would not have required a nudity writer. So she's disputing that. It says, while Talbot testified regarding SAG industry definitions, she also explained the birthing scene involved a high hip exposure that constitutes profile nudity, which would typically require a nudity writer. But Lively described things in a way that were not exactly accurate. She said she was wearing like a piece of fabric or something, right? But she was actually fully covered by a bikini bottom, basically a pair of underwear, right? Talbot further testified she did not discuss the birthing scene with Lively in advance because Baldoni did not inform her the scene would include profile nudity, and instead told her that Lively would be in a hospital gown. So they're going to have to talk to people about what actually constitutes profile nudity and whether or not that required that. You know what I mean? Because there was no fucking nudity in that scene. Okay. 66. Talbot testified she did not recall any nudity in the birthing scene. Although the birthing scene showed a high hip line, Lively did not require or request a nudity writer for that exposure. Okay. Right. So they're saying Talbot testified she did not recall nudity in the birthing scene. She also explained the scene involved a high hip profile, which is basically what we just read. Like, okay, I don't really know what else we're going to learn, right? For the part of that, okay. The only intimate scene shot in the first phase of production involved two actors other than Lively and Baldoni. That was the two actors playing the young versions of Baldoni and Lively's character, the young Lily and Atlas intimate scene. Okay. Blake's response to that says, undisputed, that the only simulated sex scene shot in the first phase of production did not involve Lively, disputed to the extent that intimate scenes may also include profile nudity, which the birth scene shot in May 2023 did include. Lively was not involved or present during filming of the young Lily and Atlas intimate scene. Blake says undisputed. So she's complaining about this scene between young Lily and Atlas that she wasn't even there for. Okay. That's both the actors, young Lily and Atlas, signed nudity writers. They rehearsed the scene with the intimacy coordinator, Baldoni, and the director of photography. Okay. Right. Hold on. So she's saying a lot of stuff here. Disputed, however, that the actors rehearsed all intimacy in advance of filming. During the rehearsal, the intimacy coordinator was surprised by certain requests Baldoni introduced that were not in the script for what was supposed to be a sensitive depiction of two minors' first sexual experience. So first of all, they're always trying to make this out as if it's some sort of pervy thing involving minors. These are full-blown adults acting a role as, you know, high school seniors or something. And so they're saying the rehearsal, the intimacy coordinator was surprised by certain requests. I don't know if that's true or not, right? For example, Baldoni directed young Lily to, again with the fucking spoon, okay? For example, Baldoni directed young Lily to lick cookie dough off a spoon and look up at her love interest, which Ferrer felt had an inappropriate adult sexual undertone. Again, y'all are so fucking sheltered. Like, Baldoni also raised unscripted content and additional positions, including having young Lily perform the scene in her underwear. Talbot had to intervene and make clear that any underwear must be full coverage, consistent with the nudity writers, which confirmed there would be no nudity, and the scene had to remain within the established boundaries. Again, like, underwear is not nudity. If you're wearing underwear as an actress doing a sex scene, you're not nude. Had to intervene is one way to put it, or she was discussing with him, doing her job, discussing with him like the intimacy in the scene, and said, we have to make sure that they have, you know, their underwear is full coverage. That's not necessarily a nefarious thing. Doesn't mean anything was going wrong there. The nudity, not the nudity coordinator, the intimacy coordinator was just doing her job. Atlas actor is 27, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, these people were mid to late 20s. Like, they're not high school children. Like, this is ridiculous. And that's the only reason we watch stuff like that, right? It's because we know that the people in these dramas, these teen dramas, we know they're adults. Because if they were actually teens, like banging on screen, it'd be like, ew, this is creepy, I don't want to watch that. But when we watch stuff like Gossip Girl, when we watch stuff like I don't know, whatever fucking teen dramas there are, like Pretty Little Liars and stuff like that. It's like, we know that the actors are well above age. Like, they're in their 20s. So it's not creepy to watch. But if you sit there and think like, oh, these are high school children, it's fucking creepy, right? You have to like accept that. Hang on. Whoa. You have to accept when you're suspending disbelief that there are some things that you can't suspend because otherwise it's fucking wrong and creepy. Like, I don't want to watch high school kids go at it, you know? But like, if I'm watching a movie and there's a sex scene with two adults who are pretending to be teenagers, whatever, you know, because I know they're in their 20s. I know they're not children. Like, you know, like, there's just so much wrong with the way they try to portray this. So, okay. Anyways, let's see. Skip through that. Rehearsal occurred. The cited materials omit. The intimacy coordinator had to correct and limit Baldoni's proposed unscripted additions. Again, correcting and limiting the proposed additions is just doing her job. So, like, they work together to do the job the best they can. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, right? Following the filming of the scene, Isabella Ferrer, the actor playing the young version of Lively's character, wrote to the film's intimacy coordinator, "Thank you so much for your help. You are incredible. And given I've never done that before, I felt like it was the easiest thing ever. So thank you." Okay. So they talk about when Isabella was questioned at her deposition, which I read earlier today, and I'm not going to go through all this shit because it's like repetitive. Okay. All right. It's more about Ferrer's deposition. I read the whole fucking thing. So, 74. In her deposition, Lively claimed she was uncomfortable with comments Baldoni made to her in their initial meeting before she even agreed or begun to work on the film. So this is like they're talking in her penthouse apartment or the same building as her penthouse apartment. Various employees and family were present. Okay. And then the response to this is disputed that it is a penthouse. It's not a penthouse. What the fuck do you want to call it then? Buckingham Palace, apparently. So, all right. Oh, thanks everyone for the blushies. But, it's okay. See, Lively was pregnant at the time. She and Baldoni had been discussing different medical decisions people make these days, including circumcision. I don't need to hear any more about the fucking circumcision, so I'm gonna just go ahead and move on from that. On February 28th, after the initial meeting, after the thing with the circumcision conversation, Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, wrote to Baldoni, we're also big fans of you over here. Since before we met, and more so after, thank you again for all you're doing. I happen to adore you, Justin. Well, let's see. Down here, they're talking about the back issues. In anticipation of a scene where he was expected to lift her, and he talked to the trainer about that. There's a text here from Lively to a friend stating that Baldoni asked about her weight because he's worried about his back and bone density and wants to be sure he's okay to lift me up for our sex scenes. So she acknowledges that he's asking or anticipating because of the scenes where he has to lift her. So what the fuck is her problem? Okay. 84. Lively subsequently described the meeting to a friend as follows. I had a 3-hour meeting with him today. He had a bit of that meltdown today when I told him. He audibly sobbed. This man is terrified of women. So he's always trying to appease people. Dude. All right. And that meeting that they were talking about was the April 25th meeting at her apartment. Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, and 2 other famous friends were there. Reynolds chastised Baldoni for commenting on a woman's weight. So she acknowledges, like, he's terrified of women. And she has all this power over him and the production, and she's still trying to play the victim. It's insane. All right. So in this one here, it says, Lively also alleged Baldoni shamed Lively for her body and weight by offering to connect her with a specialist in probiotics after Lively caught strep throat because Lively alleges the expert was instead a weight loss specialist. So Justin, who used this person as a health coach who specialized in probiotics and shit like that, tried to introduce that person to Lively or vice versa because he thought that they could help her. Lively took that offensively because she later found out it was a weight loss specialist, I guess. It says Baldoni introduced Lively to his personal health coach, who Lively later learned specialized in weight loss and was eager to recommend for how she could work on fat loss. What? Nobody said anything about recommending working on fat loss, first of all. Second, lots of people, health coaches, therapists, doctors, etc., they specialize in multiple things. So specializing in weight loss doesn't mean you can't help anyone with anything else. It sounds like she was exceedingly sensitive to that. And she picked it out and was like, oh my God, this is why he referred me to you, because I'm fat. Because I'm fat. I think about that scene in White Chicks where Jennifer Carpenter's character is like very thin and obviously looking fine in the outfit she's wearing, and she's like, oh my God, I'm such a fucking cow. You know what I mean? Like, clearly she's not a cow, but she feels like she is. And she's taking it out on the people around her. And that's what Blake is doing here, in my opinion. So, all right. I said I'm only doing the highlights here, so we're not going to read anything else. Okay. So they're talking, I guess, about Blake's boundaries and preferences when it comes to portraying sexual intimacy, because Justin was talking to Lizzie, the intimacy coordinator, saying discuss the scenes with Blake to determine how to portray more intimacy. Okay, so here it says, Wayfair Exhibit 57 reflects Baldoni's random thought that most sex scenes have some sort of breast touching, and they can be used as a way to cover the breast as well. So it's like a double, thing. Like, you can, first of all, cover the breast with the hand or whatever, like simulating touching, and then second, lots of women like to have their breasts touched during sex. I mean, that's not really a stretch, His concern about the film becoming too PG-13 because Sony was pressuring him to make it sexier, as they said. And his comment that it may be just worth that conversation of what she's comfortable with versus it actually coming from me. So I wonder if that should be something that you discussed versus put in writing. Okay. So on May 5th, Lively and the intimacy coordinator exchanged messages saying the scenes will be revised consistent with her preferences, blah, blah, blah. Lively claims Baldoni explained his proposed addition of a sex scene featuring a simulated simultaneous orgasm by stating that he and his wife experienced climax at the same time and asked if Lively and her husband did the same. We know about this already because we read in the depositions, blah, blah, blah. Lively then told Baldoni she had never seen pornography, undisputed. So Lively makes this random statement about pornography. Right. Okay, so she can randomly volunteer information about her experience with sex and pornography, but he cannot. Got it. Okay. Such discussion took place in the context of planning and choreographing a sex scene. Lively first volunteered her own personal experience before Baldoni shared his. Okay. Disputed, Lively says, this discussion took place in the context of Lively expressing to Baldoni her discomfort with the fact that scenes had become more gratuitous. So again, she said they felt in some cases somewhat pornographic, and then Lively offers that she's never seen pornography, so someone has to correct her on that. Okay. Lively claims sometime in May 2023, Baldoni told other members of the cast she never saw porn. Okay. She says undisputed. The next thing says on one occasion, Heath entered Lively's makeup trailer. We know about the makeup trailer, so we'll keep going here. All right. There was a meeting Lively requested with the production team. Wanted to discuss behavior she experienced earlier that day. Those are Lively's words, and we read them in a deposition, so I'm going to keep moving. So she admits here that meeting was important to me, so I said, okay, fine, Jamie, you can come in. So she admits she let Jamie in. Okay, so we're not going to read too much about the trailer stuff because there is just a lot we've already read, but they're saying during which he stared straight at her and looked at her exposed breasts. The description of this event gets more and more scandalous every time, right? Every time it gets a little like more ridiculous. Okay. All right. Okay. We can skim that because it's more about Heath and the trailer incident. They're still complaining about Lively having to film the birth scene with multiple angles, including one with her side profile fully nude from the chest down. Like, dude, nude from the chest down, but like what was from the chest down was mostly fake prosthetic belly. So like she's complaining that there was a naked fake stomach being shown. Like, okay. All right. I don't even know what else to say to that. Okay. Lively's makeup artist testified she does not recall seeing Sarowitz on set and does not recall meeting him during production. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what else to say to that. Sarowitz has never said anything to Lively that she felt was inappropriate or made her uncomfortable. Yet in her deposition, sorry, I knocked my headphones over. Yet in her deposition, she said that she felt Steve Sarowitz sexually harassed her. That was interesting, right? Okay. Let's see here. 113, on or about May 18th. Baldoni commented that actor Jenny Slate looked sexy in her character's wardrobe, which included black leather pants. Again, do you guys ever wear black leather pants with any other goal? Because I used to wear leather pants. And I can tell you what I was trying to do. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I can tell you what I was fishing for. But the character was supposed to look sexy in the leather pants. That's how it was supposed to go. Okay. Undisputed, Blake says, undisputed that Baldoni told Slate she looked sexy. The remainder is disputed as incomplete and misleading. Baldoni told Slate, I can say this because my wife is here, but you look sexy in what you're wearing. Okay. So I'll say this again. You can feel uncomfortable with that. If she felt uncomfortable with that and was like, dude, like, I don't really like what you just said to me. Can we please make sure that doesn't happen again? And then he stops. It's like, that's it. No need for a lawsuit, right? Like, that's ridiculous. Slate testified that she felt Baldoni was sexualizing her and explained that his comment was about me, not my character. It wasn't useful for my work. It wasn't anything I wanted. It was unwanted and had no place in my professional experience. Right, so she talked to him about that immediately. Talked to him about that. He nipped it in the bud. He didn't pick up on that. He was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. He apologized profusely. It never happened again. So I don't really know what else you want to say. Like, you have to leave room for human error. Like, some people don't pick up on things the way other people do. Some people like hearing things that other people don't. When you're working on a film like this, where it's a creative environment instead of a regular office environment, you have to take different things into account. She said, I don't like what you just said to me. He said, I'm so sorry. I totally hear you. And it never happened again. What the fuck else do you want? What do you want? All right. Let's see. She wore a low-cut dress under a coat to rehearsal. And when the coat fell open to expose the dress, Baldoni commented, I like your outfit, and gestured to his chest. Again, what are you talking about? We saw the deposition, so I'm not going to read all that. Also on May 23rd, Baldoni commented her character's outfit was sexy or hot. Okay, the response here is undisputed that he used the words, but disputed as incomplete and misleading. Says it's critical context. While shooting in a bar scene in the presence of crew and multiple actors, Baldoni pressured Lively to remove her jacket. So we've heard about this already. Lively removed her coat, and looking at her, Baldoni said, pretty hot, in a tone that made Lively feel on display and uncomfortable. Lively responded, that's not what I was going for. Baldoni responded saying sexy, to which Lively responded, neither. Slate observed this, perceiving Baldoni's comment as about Lively's body. She stated to Baldoni that comments about actors' bodies and their wardrobes range from irrelevant or unnecessary to inappropriate and distracting, and we're just not doing this anymore. I felt it was about her body. Baldoni responded by rolling his eyes and stating, sorry, I missed the sexual harassment training, before walking away in a huff. So this part right here, we've seen the footage where he, supposedly says, I missed the sexual harassment training, which I guess he's saying that he did make that joke, right? He doesn't walk away in a huff. Like, he awkwardly makes that joke and then he just kind of stands there. Like, he doesn't walk away in a huff. That's just weird. Okay. Let's see. We're going to skim through the rest of that. We're still talking about that same incident there. I think they accidentally duplicated that page, actually. So they're asking about the birthing video. Baldoni wanted to share the video in connection with his discussions about a birthing scene in the film. Okay, cool. Also disputed that Heath sharing that video had any relation to the birth scene, filming of which had completed the day before. So now we're suddenly saying the birth scene had already completed filming. We're suddenly saying that. We're suddenly saying that the birth scene was over when Jamie Heath showed this thing. That was never an issue before. Suddenly we're saying that. Okay. Let's see. Lively initially believed Heath was attempting to show her pornography, but explained it was a video of his wife giving birth. And if you read Blake Lively's declaration, which is infuriating, by the way, she says, Jamie says that he showed me an after-birth video, but he didn't. He totally showed me a nude-ass video of his wife. And I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But, like, it's fucking nuts, guys. Okay. All right, let's skim through this. I really want to get down to the Sony stuff. Lively briefly mentioned to Giannetti she was very unhappy. Yeah, no. And it's going to take forever to get there, so I want to get to that tonight, though. So let me see. We might have to skip some stuff, and I'll come back to it tomorrow. Lively shared with Giannetti her concerns about Baldoni's comments about her body and Heath's decision to show the video. Lively told Giannetti she felt like the set was untenable and unruly, and that there was no structure and there was no one in charge, and the people who were in charge were misbehaving, and that she felt like she had nowhere to go. Giannetti told Lively that she had to report her grievances directly to Wayfarer. After Lively told Giannetti that she wanted to file an HR complaint, Giannetti reported Lively's complaints to Baldoni and Heath without Lively's consent. So now you're complaining that someone told them about that? Even though Sony's own policies and procedures mandated otherwise, Giannetti did not report Lively's harassment complaints to Sony's HR, and Sony did not conduct any investigation into Lively's harassment complaints. So that's Blake Lively's version of events. And Sony came out when they were talking about the unsealing of these documents. It came out and said, Blake Lively's misrepresenting things. Her expert report is misrepresenting and misleading. And also, she's basically full of shit, and she's harassing our employee with this shit that she's saying, which is not a full representation of things or an accurate representation of things. And so Sony themselves have come out and said, what the fuck are you talking about in regards to this kind of stuff? So 123, Giannetti did not believe there was any reason to take action. Right. So, okay. So she tries to throw Giannetti under the bus here and say, even though Sony's own policies and procedures mandated otherwise, Giannetti did not report Lively's harassment complaints to Sony's HR, and Sony did not conduct any investigation into Lively's harassment complaints. Perhaps because she's still making some of this up. I mean, I'm just saying, it's a possibility. All right. So here's what we're going to have to do. We're stopping at page 50 here, but I will get to the interesting stuff before we sign off tonight, because I want to stupid. Let's search this word and I'll find it. Okay, that was not it. Oh, here it is. Okay, hang on. I want to show you guys this one before we go to bed tonight. We're going to come back to the rest of this document later, but 277. There are so many paragraphs here. 277. Here's something about Melissa Nathan confirmed to Sloan that she was not seeding or planting negative press about Blake Lively on Justin's behalf. Plaintiff's response: undisputed that Nathan told Sloan she was not going to seed or plant negative press, but Sloan believed Nathan was doing so based on Nathan sharing with her that Baldoni is somewhat of an idiot and did stupid things, and that's why she's here to clean them up. So I will say this. It seems to me that when we get away from the sexual harassment part of this and we get into just the press stuff, it seems that Melissa Nathan, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, and granted, I haven't read all the evidence from the other side, in my opinion, Melissa Nathan does seem to do some things that her clients don't approve of. It seems that she acts on what she thinks is best. She does what she feels needs to be done, no matter what the client wants, client be damned. And it doesn't really matter to Melissa Nathan how they feel about it. Because in Justin Baldoni's deposition, you can see that he did not approve of certain things that Melissa Nathan did or said, but then exhibits are shown to him where it says Melissa Nathan was actually behind this, and it's true. So when it comes to the publicist stuff, I think that Jennifer Abel should be left out of it. I honestly think the publicist dispute should be between Stephanie Jones and Melissa Nathan, because Melissa Nathan does seem to be a character who goes behind her clients' backs, including Justin and Wayfarer. But yeah, that is just my opinion. Like I said, there is some stuff I have yet to read, so I'm keeping an open mind. But from what I've seen so far, and honestly from the beginning of this, Melissa Nathan seems like somebody who doesn't care much for the opinions or instructions of her clients. So, and that's not anyone's fault except for Melissa Nathan's. So this entire lawsuit should probably be Blake Lively and Stephanie Jones suing Melissa Nathan, but whatever. Anyways, that doesn't mean that Blake Lively is not a terrible person for lying about being sexually harassed, because I really feel that's what's going on here. But I'm saying with the press stuff, Melissa Nathan is yikes. But anyways, here's what I actually wanted to get to. The last thing I wanted to get to tonight. We're talking about Sony here, right? So let's go up to plaintiff's response 287. Let's see. Viral attention. We're talking about that. So let's go to 288. Sony executives, and this is 288 from Justin. Sony executives privately observed that the negative publicity around Lively was driven by her own conduct. For instance, on August 11th, Tara Grant, executive VP and chief communications officer at Sony, wrote, "She orchestrated all this drama in a totally unsavvy and amateur way and basically threatened Sony, and now is mad it backfired on her." Oh, man. On August 15th, Tom Rothman, Sony CEO, observed that although Lively didn't deserve the backlash, she did bring it all on herself by refusing to listen to advice and by selling her products. So she's been blaming the marketing on Justin and Sony this whole time when everybody tried to warn her this was fucking stupid, and she did it anyways. She refused to listen. Okay. On August 21st, Sony president Sanford Panich wrote, "She did it to herself. If she just let him come to the premiere or didn't make all the cast unfollow him or kick him off the movie and did what everyone ever has done in show business for time and memorial, which is protect the show, then none of the sleuthing would have happened. The hair sell at the same time was epic level stupid. She wouldn't listen. She knows better." And their response to that is just like undisputed. My God. So like, it's when you look past what Blake Lively is saying and her inflammatory accusations and you look at the actual stuff that was being said is, ooh, that's rough. Like Sony's just like, no, we're done with this. Oh shit, we're done. Okay. Anyways, there's honestly so much to get through, and I'm gonna have to reconvene with you guys tomorrow afternoon after I get to New York, because that hearing is on Thursday morning. So, but for tonight, that's all I got. Let's see if anybody else is live that I could redirect you to. Hang on. If anybody else is going over some of this stuff, nope, doesn't look like it. Some of these guys, the other content creators, they don't have their redirects turned on, so I can't really do anything about that. Who do I want to redirect you to? Let's do this. Let me send you to my friend MG Law, who's looking at some interesting stuff. So tell MG Law I said hello when I redirect you there, and I will see you guys again tomorrow afternoon. I'll schedule something for like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock p.m. What hearing are you going to? It's the hearing in the motion for summary judgment arguments between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, his attorneys. So, all right. Okay, so tell everyone tell my friend MG Law I said hi, and I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon. Keep an eye out. I will put out a scheduled stream soon enough. Probably tomorrow morning I'll schedule it. So, all right, thanks everyone. Bye.